So great to be here with all of you. We're going to get this party started right now. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about, as you can see. So let's go ahead and get it started and fire it up. Put the damn emoji hands together, let everybody know we're here. Trigger that algorithm and get everybody on board here. Great to be here with you guys today. We do have a big show.
Welcome to the Ferocious
Warrior
Optimist
Wednesday, baby. Let's fire it up. All right, great to be here with all of you.
Welcome to the Ferocious Optimist Podcast.
And here we go. Let's go. Fire it up. All right, everybody. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, okay? We are getting into talking about the Iran war. It is Warrior Wednesday, all right? And so 159 days ago, the most powerful military in U.S. history, in world history, went to war with a regime whose economy is smaller than the state of Ohio. Think about that. For as much as everyone has said, Iran is so powerful, Iran is so formidable, their economy is smaller than the state of Ohio's. All right, just to put it in perspective. Tonight, though, that regime, the economy smaller than the state of Ohio, still decides which ships move through the Strait of Hormuz. We control the sky, no doubt about it, but they control the door, okay? Where do we stand today? We're going to talk all about this, okay? Because where we're standing is we started on 28 February with U.S. and Israel striking Iran. We started out, going with signing the memorandum. We had pauses. We've had ceasefires. We've had all kinds of things happen, okay? But I want you to understand that since the 20th of February, there have been some serious consequences, some serious damage, okay? CENTCOM has hit 11,000 targets. As of CNN, we have 18 U.S. killed, 624 wounded. The cost has been over $37 billion, and we have a $90 billion supplemental request in Congress, okay? Brent crude oil before the war was $67 a barrel, and now we are at $100 plus 3 times it was over $100, okay? And Hormuz traffic is down by 90%. I'll pull up the website for that later, but you have to understand that Iranian casualties on this side as well are contested right now. And they say this, we have many different reports, but the reports are all very high, okay? Some are as high as 3,600, some are 3,500. U.S.-Israeli estimates are at 6,000 plus for military casualties, okay? So I want to say this as a leadership lens, thinking about this, the first duty of a leader is an honest map and not an optimistic one. We didn't have the best lead into this war. It wasn't sold. It wasn't communicated that well, as you all know, okay? And, you have to think that how are the American people supposed to buy into this when they haven't been sold the path, the strategy, the deeper reasons why to lead up to it, which most of the time our leaders have done in the past, okay? And I want to talk also about the asymmetry of stakes. Iran is fighting for survival. Okay, the IRGC especially, okay? The Iranian regime is fighting for survival. America is fighting a war of preference, okay? The Trump administration. In any contest where one side can lose everything and the other side only loses face, the side that can walk away is usually the side that does. And that's why I'm saying to you right now in the title, this is a war that Trump can't win with the current leadership strategy, okay? With the current leadership strategy, and frankly, nobody wins in war. We know that, okay? But interests are protected, interests are advanced, interests are met. The Iranian people definitely will suffer tremendously. American people will suffer at the pump, the gas pump, in grocery prices, in the economy, and affordability, and all those things, and also American lives lost on the battlefield, obviously, okay? So nobody really wins in war, but make no mistake that the side that can walk away, okay, is the side that eventually usually does. And I think this is very important to note, okay? Because we are not in the same war they are in. There's an asymmetry of stakes. For the IRGC, this is existential, literally, okay? When they lose, they do not go into the opposition, okay? They don't lose their seat in the office, right? In office. They go into a mass grave or a courtroom where they'll get hung and then go into a mass grave, okay? Their dead is their supreme leader's dead, their defense minister, their intelligence minister, their Navy commander, okay? Their commander of their Navy, National Security Secretary, IRGC Intel Chief, and so on and so forth, and so many other leaders, right? As they've said many times, they are down to below their third level of leadership, okay? If we walk away tomorrow from this, oil prices will fall. The president himself will take a hit, no doubt about it. Politically, he will take a hit. The Republican Party will take a hit. The administration will take a hit, okay? There will be hearings. The allies will recalibrate, okay? Real damage, real stuff, okay? Hegemonic damage. We are the world's hegemon at this point. Hegemon means we are the dominant force, as many of you know. But I'll just say it for anybody who's not familiar with the term. We're the dominant force in the world right now, okay? There will be real damage, though. Nobody in Washington will die for it, but there will be damage to prestige, to reputation, to hegemonic power. The thing with hegemonic power is that people have to believe you're the hegemon for the hegemonic power theory to work, for you to actually be able to leverage this status as the world's power, the world's policeman, whatever you want to say. And they have to believe that they don't even want to test you because you could swiftly defeat anybody. Well, that's being challenged right now, isn't it? It's being challenged, and it's dangerous, frankly. Okay? So, talking about von Clausewitz, we talked about von Clausewitz a few weeks ago, the Prussian strategist from the Napoleonic Wars. The value of the object of whatever we're going after sets the magnitude, okay, and the duration of the effort. It sets out how much you're willing to put in, how much skin in the game you want to have for the value of what you're going after. The Iranians, the IRGC, the Iranian regime, their objective is survival, okay? There's a ceiling of infinity. The ceiling is infinity. They are willing to give whatever is necessary, including lives, blood, and treasure, whatever, okay, to survive. Ours is preference. This is a war of choice. You cannot outwill someone whose alternative to fighting is dying. Not even to mention the ideology of the IRGC, okay? I'm not saying they're stronger by any means. I'm not putting their culture against ours, against the United States culture, anything like that. I'm saying factually how things normally work, okay? Where one side is fighting to survive, to live, okay, not be destroyed, not put in court, not put in mass graves, not to be overthrown. And the other side is doing this kind of on a whim, okay, and not all out committed. We are flying in the air. We have 18 dead. God bless our troops. God bless American troops who have been killed, okay? And God bless all the innocents that have been killed, you know, and it's a terrible thing. What I'm saying is that these are different things we're talking about, okay? So you cannot outwill someone whose alternative to fighting is dying, right? You can only outprice them. And we're going to talk about this later. We talk about game theory, game of chicken we're playing. The outpricing is in a war of attrition. Who's willing to pay the larger price? Who's willing to take more pain? Who can take more pain? Inherently, when you are fighting for your survival, your pain threshold goes up, okay? Because you're pumped with adrenaline, you're pumped with fear, all these things like that, okay? And sometimes you have no choice. You have no choice but to fight and to survive. So you can only outprice people. You can outlast them or change the object, change what you're going after, according to Clausewitz, von Clausewitz, okay? The evidence for this. Inflation has been reported at 96%, all right? This is in Iran. Inflation reported at 96%. The real has gone crazy. 900,000 to 1.9 million per dollar. Inflation is insane. There are no significant military defections at this point. This is one of the first indicators. We have to understand, one of the first indicators of a regime about to collapse are mass police defections, police quitting, leaving, mass military defections, okay, or a coup attempts, negotiating with the U.S. government and coup attempts. These things are not happening, okay? These are all preconditions for regime change. So make no mistake, when people are telling you, we think we're almost there, we think we're almost there. We have not had any independent reporting of defections from their military or defections from their police. All of these things, all right? In fact, the regime has struck back and has 50 50 plus political executions right now. They've done more than 50 plus political executions, including a very famous, world-renowned and beloved wrestler I've heard from the mixed martial arts community. He was an up-and-coming, maybe UFC fighter as well too, but I think he was a world champion and Olympian in wrestling. Okay, they produced some fantastic wrestlers out there, over there in Iran. They executed him for standing with the people. All right. On our side, the president's approval rating is down to 28%. 28% of the president's handling of the war, okay, according to an AP poll. About 2/3 have said that it's not worthwhile. I'm sure you have your own facts, your own polls that are even lower, maybe even higher. I'm not sure, but this is the one that I have, okay? So this is why you lose negotiations you should win. The vendor who needs to make the deal to make payroll and to feed his or her family beats the buyer who merely prefers a better price, okay? They're going to negotiate harder, they're going to dig in, and they're going to get what they need to get, okay? Remember, before any hard conversations take place, you want to ask, what does the other side lose if this fails, okay? What do they lose if this fails? There's a bigger downside than yours. If they have a bigger downside than yours, you have some leverage, okay? Smaller, if they have a smaller, you blink first. That's how it is, okay? So, and I'm saying for you, if your downside is bigger than theirs, you have leverage. If you have a smaller downside, like you could walk away, it doesn't hurt you that much, as much, you're probably going to blink first, okay? And again, this isn't a matter of toughness, of tough guy, courage, things like that, bravery. This is a matter of strategic calculus, of looking at the core vital interests that are at stake for your life, right? If you're like, yeah, well, that's not that important to me anyway. Life's still going to go on. This will be a political hit, but I can create a narrative around it. I can create a story around it and we'll be fine. If you can do that, you have an off-ramp. If you're getting pounded on, okay, and your only off-ramp is survival, there's no off-ramp. It's either, and if you quit and you surrender, you're probably going to be killed, okay, taken out of power. So then you're going to fight. You're going to fight as much as it takes in order to stay in power, okay? So you can see this. You have to ask yourself before any hard conversation, hard negotiation, any deal, who has the bigger downside if they lose this, okay? So we're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about the toll booth for Iran. We're going to talk about, we're going to get into the three voices, three theories of victory between General Jack Keane, Marco Rubio, and President Trump. We're going to talk about the midterm clock, okay, the political calculus there. We're going to talk about a potential ground option. We're going to talk about the game theory, the odds at stake. Where are the odds right now? Believe it or not, odds are up even more that the U.S. invades Iran before 2027. It's up from 2 weeks ago when I did this with you guys again, okay? A little bit, but it's still climbing. Make no mistake, it's still climbing, okay? We're going to see what the major analysts say about all this. And one of the most important things we're going to talk about tonight, stick around for this, okay? We are going to ask the question, is this America's Suez moment? All right? Is this the Suez Canal moment, the Suez moment for the United States like it was for the British Empire, when the decline of the British Empire was fully announced? And we're going to talk all about what does it mean to have a Suez moment, and then is the U.S. in one? Is this the Suez moment like it was for the British Empire for the United States, okay? And my answer may surprise you, so stick around for that, because I really want to dig in on that, because I think it's very important for all of us to understand that there are some similarities and some differences too, but I think my answer might surprise you, so stick around for that, okay? And we're going to get into what the case is like, where it breaks for us, where it breaks against us, and then I will give you my verdict for all of this at the very, very end, all right? And before we go anywhere, I need to go ahead and recognize the chat. Big round of applause right now for the best chat in YouTube. Best chat in YouTube. Best chat in YouTube. Appreciate you guys. Put your hands together. Big round of applause. And it's not just me saying it, like I said. Everybody who comes here says this is the coolest chat they've ever been in. Best chat in YouTube. And you guys make that happen. I feel very supportive. And hopefully make some good friends in there too. So welcome. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps out the channel a lot. I really would appreciate it if you did. I'm always surprised to see how many people are watching, but don't subscribe. YouTube tells me all these things. They're like, Yeah, 15% are subscribers. I'm like, what in the hell? All right, so we want to bump that up a little bit. It's going to help me also to get more guests on the channel, guests that you guys are requesting from me. I get requests for guests for topics we want to talk about. I can bring an expert in for. But if they're outside of my circle, the bigger subscription we have, the bigger channel we have with the numbers will help to bring those people in for me and for you, okay? So let's do that. And next, I want to give a big round of applause also for all of our members. Members, I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Big round of applause for our members, everybody. And again, we're going to get into this tonight. And while I'm at it here, I'm going to give a big round of applause also to all of our gold and platinum members. I appreciate you. Our platinum members, Freedom Cherry and Buff, I appreciate you very much. Gold members, thank you so much. Big round of applause right here for gold and platinum members. And I promise you, we're about to kick it off in a second here. Thank you so much for all your support, everybody. And as always, okay, our moderators are here to help us, here to give us a great experience in the chat. So don't give them a hard time, all right? If they talk to you about something, just listen to them. They're representing me right now. So I appreciate you, mods. Thank you so much for your help. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this. We got a lot to talk about right now, and away we go. So the roadmap for tonight, like I said, we're going to talk about where the war stands, the asymmetry of stakes, and the toll booth. And we're going to also talk about, after we go into, is this America's Suez moment, we may even get into affordability at home, okay? And we're going to talk about the allies in the credibility ledger. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the political aftershock of this whole thing, this whole Iran war adventure that we're in right now. What is that going to mean at the polls? What is that going to mean for example, the different parties, for conservatives, for the Republican Party? What is it going to mean politically at home? And we're going to talk about that. Again, you guys know I'm political independent. That's not the direction. This is a leadership case study in strategy and decision making on probably the most viral, well-known case in the world right now. And so that's what we're going to do. We're using this as a leadership case study, decision-making case study, strategy-making case study, okay? That's where I stand on this. I'm not trying to sway you in how to vote or who you should like or not like. I am just going to call the balls and strikes, and I'm going to talk about why decisions were probably made the way they were they good or bad, and what lessons can you learn for your own life, for your business, so that you can win, okay? All right, let's go ahead and get into this right now. So, as I was saying, we are now on August 5th. We are in the 159th day of the war, okay? And we are not fighting the same war that they are, okay? And I want to say this, that the biggest story of this war at this point right now has almost no American coverage, okay? And that's that Iran has built this toll booth. And we're going to get into this in a minute. But they don't have a blockade so much. Apparently, they're trying to blockade. That's not really working. But they have a toll booth with a name, a fee schedule, and a payment rail. And ships are paying for it, okay? The IRGC runs a Persian Gulf Strait authority with fees of $2 million per vessel. You can pay in yuan and Bitcoin, USDT, foreign currency, okay? Ships have paid in yuan. Ships are paying it in Bitcoin, all right? On the 27th of March, Iran blocked 2 Chinese ships and moved to formalize fees, of course, with China's consent. On the 30th of July, the Treasury sanctioned 2 Iranian firms over an IRGC scheme forcing vessels to buy insurance to transit the strait. The toll evolved into a product, okay? So this is very, very important to understand that we are trying to deny them from having this toll booth and this capability, but they're still able to charge it. How are they able to do this? Because remember this, one thing, whoever sets the price sets the rules. So this may tell you something for why we're actually having the problems we're having in these negotiations, okay? Iran's foreign ministry says we do not charge tolls, but transit services will require charging fees. And the United States is sitting back and trying to stop this from happening, trying to remove this from the negotiating points, okay? We are at the point where this has become the Iranian nuclear weapon, okay? This whole thing. So I want you to think about if a competitor starts charging for the thing that you're giving away, you've lost the category. Okay, you've completely lost it. You didn't just lose the revenue. They now are the ones that have the controlling power. Okay, that is kind of scary. So let's go ahead. I want to go ahead and show you guys a video really fast. And actually, before we do that, let's take a look right now at our marine traffic. Let's see where things are on the website. Let's see what's flowing right here. Okay. First of all, I believe there are about 140 vessels. 140 vessels that are waiting to transit the straits. And here we go. Let's check this out. Okay, so check out the screen right now. It's as dead as it's ever been. Okay, it's as dead as it's ever been. We have a huge buildup of ships still right here that are waiting to transit. I believe there are 140 ships still transiting. The start and stop has not ended. Okay. And matter of fact, we're going to go over, zip over the Straits of Bab el-Mandeb, which means the Straits of Tears here. And you can see things are flowing through. The Houthis have stopped their blockade. All right. They have stopped this blockade that they had before. And you can see right there, there are some ships flowing through. The red triangles are oil. The green triangles are cargo, as I said before. But I want to point you guys to where the Suez Canal is in the Red Sea. And we're going to talk about why this is significant, okay? Again, this is the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb here, okay? The Strait of Tears, basically, I believe what it means. This is the Suez Canal. Why is this significant? Well, because a French firm created the Suez Canal in between Egypt and Israel, okay? And actually through Egypt to lead into the Mediterranean Sea. Previously, ships had to go all the way around the Horn of Africa, all the way around here, in order to reach Europe. But then miraculously, this French firm built the Suez Canal, which allows oil to come from the Persian Gulf through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, through the Suez Canal, or as Saudi Arabia has done, built pipelines on the west coast of Saudi Arabia on the Red Sea to go through the Suez Canal. Okay? And we're going to talk about what it means to have a Suez moment here in a minute, okay? And I'm also going to talk about, again, why this is such a difficult situation for the United States, because these things, the Suez moment, and why this is a no-win situation with this current strategy, the current leadership strategy, in my opinion, for the United States and for the Trump administration especially, okay? Let's go back into this in a minute. We'll come back here in a second, all right? So, again, where we're sitting right now, this is not the same fight. The IRGC is an existential threat. And I want you to think about something too. With the IRGC, this is a religious fundamentalist, a fundamental Islamic fundamental religion. These are hardliners. These are not people that want to negotiate. They have a martyrdom culture, okay? When you put them in the martyrdom situation, they're going to choose use the martyrdom culture to reinforce their strategy, okay? This is not saying that they're human, that they're so hard and so strong they can't be defeated. It's not. I know plenty of tough people, plenty of tough organizations. I've seen plenty of tough things out there, plenty of tough warriors, okay? But I want to say, when your culture is a martyrdom culture and you put them in a situation where it's either victory or martyrdom, both sides are technically a winning solution, okay? And so this again increases the stakes for the IRGC, who is technically actually controlling the country, all right? Make no mistake, we have choices and options for the United States. Could we escalate this? Yes. Could we bomb more? Yes, okay? But as the Admiral said last week, Admiral Studeman, do you want to turn the whole U.S. military into war criminals, where we're increasing more and more the strikes we do that are now non-military associated targets? Okay, so there's a lot more at stake here, where the U.S., in order to maintain that hegemonic power status, which comes along with it, lots of psychological advantage, lots of market advantage, lots of soft power advantage, where people will move and listen to you because you are the hegemon. Now, if you can't force open the straits with your conventional warfare abilities, okay, and going nuclear is absolutely out of the question, insane. I've seen people talk about why don't we just go nuclear before, okay? I've seen questions like this and comments like this. Because you will lose all the standing in the world. People will think you're insane. They'll say you have a psychotic administration, psychotic leader. What are you doing? Okay? So you can see more and more with this current strategy of incremental escalation how we cannot win this right now because they will stay there. There's no amount of bombing in history that has shown that it will topple a regime. Okay? We are moving towards the midterm elections, which is exactly what their plan is. All right. They are making money on the toll booth in Strait of Hormuz for anyone that goes through, despite our best efforts to say, no, you're not paying that. And unless we reinforce, we put the blockade back in, not allowing anyone to go through, the IRGC is actually benefiting from it. Okay. So, This is very important because even on June 21st, Trump threatened U.S. tolls for services rendered as the guardian angel to the countries of the Middle East. Okay, and then we said we were going to do it, I think, along with Oman, and then they said Oman and Iran can figure it out. There's so many different confusing points, and all of them point at lowering U.S. prestige and perceived power. Okay. I'm just telling you that's the way it is because if you don't do what you say and say what you do, you start to make people question you. And as the individual psychology goes, the way people think, so does the group psychology, so goes the even on the world stage, okay? People begin to question your power, they begin to question your ability to enforce the things that you are trying to enforce and also pursue the objectives that you want to pursue. So there's a lot there, okay? So let's talk about three different voices of victory here. How do we get out of this, all right? Number one, we get General Jack Keane talking about win by breaking them. Let's watch a little video from him right now really fast, and then we're going to discuss this because these three different voices, General Jack Keane is saying we got to go all in. General Mattis said the same thing. We got to go all in. We got to go in. We got to break them. We need to actually do a ground invasion. This is from General Mattis before, something to that effect, okay? So let's hear from General Jack Keane really fast right now and see what he has to say on this. All right, here we go.
General Jack Keane, Fox News senior strategic analyst, my mentor on all these matters. So General Keane, I don't know. I mean, the stock market would like the Strait of Hormuz to be reopened. I would like it to be reopened. Everyone would like it to be. But the news reporting suggests that it's a deal between Iran and Oman, and it'll have service fees or tolls, and basically they're going to control it, not us. It's not the it's not the free navigation that Mr. Trump is talking about, General Keane. So I wonder if you had any thoughts on this. People, Scott Besson today, as you know, said it's either today or tomorrow the deal will be completed. What do you make of it, sir?
Yeah, well, a couple things. Number one, I think the reason why the Iranians dialed Donald Trump's number here was the obvious threat that we were dead serious about going back into major combat operations. They got that message. And what are they really trying to do here? One, they've already succeeded. They stopped the major combat operations from taking place. That's what they did on April the 7th when we went to a ceasefire. And again, remember, the issue then was the Straits of Hormuz. And the idea was that we were going to make a deal with them. We didn't make a deal for 2 months until sometime in June. And we did make a deal over the Straits of Hormuz. And even though their president signed it, several days later, they violated it. And we went tit for tat in terms of violations, attacks, let's make a deal sort of thing.
All right, guys. So one of the things, that sticks out in my mind is that we do keep going back and forth in this tit for tat. It doesn't seem to be very effective. So I want to just get a pulse from all of you out there in the chat right now. Give me a 1 if you feel that it's mostly Iran who has violated any ceasefire or any terms like that. And then give me a 0 if you think it was the U.S. and Israel who violated the terms. I just want to get an idea where we're at on that. Okay. Again, give me a 1 in the chat if you feel it was mostly Iran that has been violating the ceasefire terms or any of the deals. And give me a 0 if you feel it was Israel in the United States. Okay, so I want to get an idea where you guys think about that. Okay, let's see here. Hey Nick, what's going on? Good to have you. Good to have you in the chat. Awesome. Got my brother Nick in the chat. Great to have you. Let's see. 3 both. You think so, Keith? Okay. I got Lady Ann says U.S. and Israel. Jason says U.S. and Israel. Okay. That's interesting. Very interesting. I'm not sure. Jonathan Davis, 0, but mostly Israel. Okay. Mostly Israel. All right. Well, let's keep on. I appreciate you guys, you giving your opinion there. Let's keep on rolling. And let's see. Let's see what we come up with. Sorry I didn't give any shout outs, individual shout outs tonight, but it's great to have you guys. Let's keep on going here. Okay. We're going to keep on watching this right now. Let's go.
So here we are once again. So where I know where the president is coming from. If he doesn't get a deal that's satisfactory, and what you just described is not satisfactory to him whatsoever, we cannot leave Iran in control of the Straits of Hormuz in any way, shape, or form. That's a fact. We need to go back to pre-February 28th when we began the war. Free navigation, international waters, nobody owns any of it, and nobody can control any of it or influence it. That is the kind of deal we need to have coming out of here. But what are the Iranians really up to here? I mean, you got to look at this from their perspective. And I know people don't want to hear this, but from the Iranians' perspective, you and I know who these guys are. We've been talking about it for months, how diabolical, tyrannical they are. They looked at the April 7th as a major victory for them because why? They stopped the war. And their intention wasn't to get a deal. Their intention was to drag this out for as long as they possibly could.
All right. So I think that's a really important point right there. And we realize that this is exactly their intention. Okay. Their intention, as General Jack Keane is saying, is to drag this out as long as they possibly can. Guys, I want to get a chance to hear what you guys say about this, but give me a 1 in the chat if you feel that Iran's intentions for this is to drag out the war as long as they possibly can. Tell me what you think on that, okay? So tell me what you guys think, okay? Give me a 1 in the chat if you think that Iran's intentions here are to actually, to drag out the war as long as they possibly can. Tell me, give me in the chat what you guys think, okay? And then give me a 0 if you don't think so. I'll tell you, Keith, I tend to agree with you as well, too. Let me see here. I'm going to jump in there. I think so, too. Makes strategic sense. Hey, Nick, I appreciate it. Thanks, Nick. Great having you here. Thank you. Always great to have my brother in the audience. Let me tell you something. My brother's a freaking genius. He's being kind right now. Ever tell you guys the time I hit my brother in the head with nunchucks when I was young? And he's 3 years older, so that didn't go so well for me. Wooden nunchucks. And he's like, oh, I'm going to kill you. He gave me the whoop down. Oh, the adventures of being young kid, the younger brother. Yeah, Frosty, I think you're right about that. Very smart. Yeah, it works out in their favor. Buff, you're right about that. I think it's the only card they have to play. Well, I agree with you. It's the only card they have to play. The protracted conflict, right? They're trying to get the Vietnam. They're trying to get the Iraq War, right? Hey, Freedom Cherry, good to have you here. What's going on, Juan Wick, Jonathan Davis, Jason, Matt Byrne, Belmont, Lady Ann. I didn't get to say hi to anybody. Mark, what's going on, Mark? Good to have you. EJ, yep, I think you're right about that. Okay, let's keep rolling. I think so too. Let's keep listening to this because we're going to listen to 3 different voices here. At least I'm going to describe the 3 different voices. We're going to listen to General Keane, listen to President Trump. I may have something from Marco Rubio. Let me see. But let's go ahead and listen a little bit more right now.
And now we're 4 months. They believe the reason why President Trump was willing to stop the war was because of oil and gas prices, and the president hasn't hidden that from us, and the implication of the midterms and political concerns surrounding all of that. The Iranians believe the closer you get to that, the less likelihood that we'd ever go back to major combat operations. That's kind of in the back of their mind and driving them. So
this could be true. This might not be true, okay? Because as been told to me, China, the Chinese regime, okay, the CCP, Chinese leadership are some pretty shrewd people. They have strategic patience. One of the things I have been told is that China would never dare risk going at Taiwan or anything risking a kinetic war with Trump. Okay, I think Admiral Studman said that last week as well too. You don't tug the lion's beard while he's wounded. Let him slide on down and decline. So yes and no. There's a possibility President Trump may go all in after the midterms. It may do something crazy. Okay, big strikes, big, I don't know what. As I've said, we'll talk about this later, but Polymarket right now is predicting 31% chance of a major U.S. invasion by January 1st, 2027. Okay, so odds are going up and the sentiment is going up for a major ground operation in Iran. I hope they're wrong, but I don't know. You guys can chat about it in there and say what you think. Okay, but we're gonna see, and we are gonna talk about the Suez moment. Is this a Suez moment? Again, where the empire, the British Empire, officially was basically out in public showing their decline, that they were no longer the power they were before. Is this that moment for the United States? Again, stick around to the end. I think I'm going to surprise you with what I come up with, okay? And what I say. So, we're going to talk about General Keane a little bit more, but 24th of July, he said this regime hasn't changed truth. This regime hasn't changed, truth be known, in 47 years. They're exact same regime. Same ideology, different people because we've killed them, okay? Or they've, aged out. Moderates versus hardliners has always been a false narrative, okay? The regime is dominated by the hardliners, by the IRGC. That's where the money is. Make no mistake, the Ayatollah Khomeini, I think, was worth like 87 billion, something crazy like that, okay? He was the one handing out survival strategies for all of his cronies, all of his supporters, all his hardliners, all his loyalists, okay? So again, human nature is human nature, right? We've all seen does communism work? Does this work, right? People overall are driven by self-interest most of the time, okay? It is something you have to fight against and not be driven by self-interest all the time. Obviously I believe love is a very powerful force in human nature as well too, okay? Because we are social creatures by nature, all right? And love is a very powerful, mystical, magical type force in our lives, okay? But make no mistake, survival strategy is very important. How do you survive? How do you survive and not be killed, not be liquidated, not be put in jail, not be murdered by these hardliners in the regime, okay? So I'm just saying very real stuff here, okay? The regime hasn't changed. Again, this is General Jack Keane. I'm giving the color commentary, but along the lines to support what he's saying. 27th of July, he said we're ready for major combat operations, which would take about 2 weeks. I think, again, that's air power. Air power is not what's going to do it. And again, the thing we're going to have to see is, are there deployment orders? Have we seen the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force get deployed? Have we seen a brigade combat team, deployed? Have we seen an Iron Mountain buildup in Saudi Arabia, in Iraq, in all these places, okay? Have we seized a beachhead in southern Iran yet? Not yet, but there is talk of it now. Seizing a beachhead south of Bandar Abbas. That will change the political calculus. Let me tell you that right now, okay? On the domestic front, people are not going to remember 5 years from now that we had to pay higher gas prices. This is what General Jack Keane says, okay? Yeah, but it might be too late because we operate in our 2-year political cycle, right? People are remembering right now in leading us to the midterms. So let's go ahead and watch a little bit more of this.
I think we may get a deal on the Straits. They'll drag out the nuclear deal as much as they possibly can. But even if they do get a Straits, Larry, a deal on the Straits, they proved to us. We had a deal with them the last time, June the 17th. Both presidents signed it. What did that deal say? We would remove our blockade, and they would have no interference, no fees, no organization, no anything associated with the Straits of Hormuz. And what happened? They violated it. So that, I think, is the path that Iran is on, and it's important to understand that. The path the president is on, good deal or no deal. That's kind of where he is. And if there's no deal, then I'm going back to major combat operations.
Right.
Only time will tell.
Okay, so no deal, General Jack Keane, no deal. We're going back to major combat operations, okay? Again, the title, what I talk about here, and I say to you guys, why this strategy cannot win in Iran, okay? Again, we've been talking like this for months. Deal, we're all happy. No deal, back to combat operations, major combat operations. We haven't done it. We haven't done it yet. We've done a lot of airstrikes, a lot of things like that. But the word on the street is there are no more targets to strike. This is really why we're stalling. There are no more targets to strike. Okay? And then if we do, what are we going to start striking, civilian power structures, civilian roads, civilian supported things that you could argue everything has dual use, right? But you can't just go around and now starting a Dresden-style bombing in Germany in World War II. We can't do World War II level of destruction because that was World War II, okay? It was a major war declared by Congress, okay? This still isn't there yet, right? We don't have an authorization for the use of military force. We don't even have the supplemental approved yet. There's so many things that have to be done in order for this to, to advance and to keep going. So let's listen to this next one from General Keane here. Again, a little bit of a different take that he has. Similar, but different. Let's listen.
I mentioned, but please tell us what you're thinking, which is more important.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, Larry. I think we truly, really have to step back and reassess the strategy that we've been undertaking. For our audience, just to recall for them, after 38 days of epic fury with a couple of more weeks to go, we went to a ceasefire on April the 7th. We began negotiations on April the 8th because the Iranians were telling us that they would be willing to open up the Straits of Hormuz, which they put in place their interference back on March the 2nd. So here we are, almost 4 months now in the negotiation phase. And what do we have to show for it? Are the Straits of Hormuz open? No, they're not. As at the attack last night was intent to kill Americans, make no mistake about it. Intelligence provided by the Russians going right back at the base where Americans did indeed die before with their most sophisticated ballistic missiles were pounding themselves into those targets. And as the president noted, we defeated every single one of them. But when you look at this now, almost 4 months, we don't have the Straits of Hormuz open, which was the initial ploy to stop this, to go to the ceasefire. And secondly, are we any closer to a nuclear deal, which are the two imperatives here? I think not. We have to face it for what it is. These off again, on again negotiations are leading us nowhere. Secondly, in terms of Iran's violence, we are going up an escalation ladder. They hit us, we come back and hit them hard. They hit us again, we come back and hit them harder. This escalation is piecemeal. We need to go back to what you said, major combat operations with the Israelis, with the comprehensive target list, where we put maximum pressure on everything at the same time. This is what absolutely puts a regime towards a collapse. What am I talking about? We start, certainly, an all-out attack on ballistic missiles, drones, IRGC organizations, and leaders. We take down everything to do with energy in terms of economic value to them. Oil and gas, we destroy it. Take it away from them. That alone added to the blockade.
All right, I'm going to ask you guys in the audience, okay, everything he said, okay, and knowing that we've already struck so many targets, okay, do you guys think, I mean, is this going to work? Okay, I'm just kidding, and I know we're not all like military strategists here, things like that, but you've been paying attention to the war for a while. And what General Kane is saying, we need to put pressure everywhere at the same time and absolutely destroy their economic means, like their oil and gas, any way to benefit economically, okay? That would mean smashing Carg Island probably, or seizing it, smashing all of their dual-use energy facilities, which I don't believe we have just yet. But I want to ask you guys, do you think that will do it? Or haven't we already done that? And why haven't we done it yet? Okay, I know we're trying to manipulate the gas prices. I know we're trying to make sure the markets are doing okay, which, the Dow Jones is doing okay. S&P is doing okay by all accounts. But I want to get you guys, give me a 1 in the chat if you think a full court press bombing and airstrikes like General Keen's talking about will actually bring them to the negotiating table. And give me a 0 if you don't think so, okay? And I'll put my answer here in a second. I'll let you guys answer first. I just want to say, yeah, that's it, Buff. You're right. Okay, more bombing. Then they strike our allies or shut down the other strait. Yeah, and then we're like, oh, wait a second. We need to pause. No, Buff, exactly. It's like we just did that. We just did that. So, yeah, I'm with you. So Buff says 0, okay, leading the way. Platinum member, moderator, in the breaching. Okay, let's see. Ruby says 0. What's up, Ruby? Frosty says 0. Keith says 0. Jimmy John says 0. Lady Ann says 0. Lisa says 0. Matt Burns says 0. And yeah, I mean, yeah, we cannot blockade the Caspian Sea to the north. From there, they will still receive Russian and Chinese support. Yeah, you're probably right about that too, EJ. 0, it's also spiritual. Okay, got you. Make up traffic. Propaganda says definitely okay. Lady Ann. Freedom Cherry says 0. Hey, Freedom, what's going on? Good to have you here. Platinum member, Freedom Cherry. Great to have you. Juan Wick. What's up, Juan? Juan Wick. Yeah, it might be, but at what cost? I know. It's confusing, and I want to say this is where the communication up front would have helped for American citizens. Clearly defined objectives, right? We have a few clearly defined objectives, but they're so big and so expansive. And like when I'm working with my clients, I always say you need to define SMART goals: specific, measurable, actionable, reachable, with a due date attached, T for time, okay? Some of these things, what's up, Freedom? Some of these things are so big and so difficult to take action on, like saying no nuclear weapons. Well, they have a lot of nuclear, refined, enriched uranium. How do we get rid of that for them? How do we get rid of that? Make sure that it's not going to happen. So there's just a lot there, okay? Now, destroying their ballistic missile capability and their ability to create more, yep, could do that. Destroy their Navy, yep, could do that, did that, right? Degrading and defeating their drone capability, degrading it to a point where they can't have much power projection, yep, did that. Cost imposing strategy, make them pay, destroy their defense industrial base. Can we do that? Yes, we did that too, okay? So these are more actionable. You know what I mean? These are things that you can do and you can measure. But the thing is that this is why he's saying we're not even closer to a nuclear deal. We're not closer. We've done all these things. We're no closer. Straits are still closed. I showed you the map, right? Live feed now. Straits are still closed. I'll put it up again in case anyone missed it. In case anyone's wondering, let's see. Are the straits open? Let's look. Bab al-Mandeb is open. The Houthis said go ahead. Houthis are not getting involved too much in this. Not being dragged into a death match with the U.S. and Israel. They said, we're good. We did our part. And look it. Straits of Hormuz are still closed. Okay? So again, why I'm saying through the current strategy we're using right now, we can't win, okay? We're not going to lose. The U.S. isn't going to be the downfall of the great Satan of the United States, the downfall. No, we're not going to lose. We're not going to defeat the United States. It's maybe defeat us from our objectives on this current strategy, okay? But then, as Juan Wick pointed out, at what cost do we achieve these through this strategy? And again, guys, when you're forming strategy, the key thing here is when we form strategy, you must first of all look at the assumptions you have, okay? You first of all are going to define the objectives you want, right? Why are we going here? What are we trying to do? What do you want? What are your strategic objectives? And make sure they are specific, okay? And they're measurable and they're actionable, okay? Because someone's going to have to do it and you're going to have to spend blood and treasure to get it done. And then when you do that, you got to say, well, what are my assumptions about this strategy? What do I believe is true? Well, I believe there's going to be gravity there. Yep, okay, gravity. I think you got about 100% sure gravity is going to happen. Yep. I believe there'll be mountains and desert. Yep, mountains and desert. It's there. I believe the Strait of Hormuz will be there and be difficult and be tight. And I believe that they could mine it and close it. Well, what's the percentage there? I'd probably say, 75%. No, it sounds like nobody really took that into consideration. The flawed assumption came when they said the regime will capitulate and quit and fall when we do a decapitation strike. This was the critical assumption that everything hinged on, like a door hinge. And they were wrong, okay? So, and there are a few other things that are wrong on too, but I'm just saying you got to question your assumptions at some point, all right? Let's go back to old General Keane here, and then we're going to go see Marco Rubio and see President Trump and what his ideas are.
We can do with them is isolate Iran from its neighbors because they're trading with them. Shut down the rails, shut down the roads in and out of these neighboring countries, shut down the airports as well as the seaports. Isolate Iran, it's a sense of a quarantine on top of them.
Haven't we just done that? Haven't we already done that? I thought we already did that. If we haven't done that, why haven't we done that? Guys, do you think we've already, give me a 1 in the chat if you think we have already tried to quarantine Iran. Give me a 1 in the chat. I want to see what you guys think. Have we already tried to quarantine Iran, meaning isolate them? A blockade's pretty isolating. Air supremacy is pretty isolating. Destroying bridges, pretty isolating. Interdiction operations, pretty isolating. Maybe we haven't across for Pakistan. Maybe Pakistan still enjoys freedom of trade with them. Maybe other places too. Maybe Russia too. Obviously, yeah, I think that we've already tried that, it seems like, right? So it's interesting. It's interesting. But also at the same time, I have heard recently that Pakistan is compromised and they shouldn't be the ones leading the negotiations anymore. I've heard that because it's in their best interest to have Iran, their current regime, up and running. Okay? So they have a real interest. But at the same time, that might be the reason why we're using Pakistan, because they want to urge them to stay in power, stay in place, and take the damn deal. Okay? There are multiple levels here. I don't claim to know everything. I'm not going to act like, oh, I'm smarter than everybody in the administration. No, that's not the case. I'm calling it like I see it, seeing the strategy, seeing what decisions are made, and trying to make sense of why. Okay? Again, so that we can apply it in our own lives, in our own businesses, in our own careers, as to be better decision makers, better leaders. All right? And then you decide along the way, however you want to decide, for the administration, for voting, for your political thoughts. Okay? I'm going to give you my best strategic assessment and analysis. Okay? Keith, absolutely. Sanction blockade. I know. That's what I mean, Keith. I was like, what are we talking about? Didn't we do all this? Yeah, exactly. Mark says yes. EJ says yes. Yes, we have. We've tried it. We've isolated them. We've done all this stuff. Crazy stuff, okay? All right, let's keep going. Let's keep rolling. Listen a little bit more here, and then we're going to keep on going.
And then open up the Straits of Hormuz. We know they're not going to open it. We have to forcibly open it. We've already done a lot of work in that end. And then, Larry, I totally agree with you. We need to conduct a combined CIA and Mossad operation to, one, undermine the regime and all of the sub-objectives to do that. And number two, provide assistance to the Iranian people so they can resist. These are within the means of these two extraordinary organizations would be working covertly to achieve an objective for the first time, just as our conventional military.
as he's saying that, and again, all respect to General Keane, not taking anything away from him, okay? Mega respect. I mean, he's a sharp guy. He's done a lot. He knows a lot. But I want to say this. Right now, anybody I know at the CIA, at the agency, or anyone who's in that line of work, people I know are just doing this right now. They're like, we're doing this. Oh my God. You don't think we're doing this already? Well, it's easier said than done. This infrastructure you need to build, infrastructure of people, of cadre, of leadership teams, of people willing to put their skin on, their necks out there, okay? Because right now, the IRGC's security apparatus and the Basij militia, which we haven't talked about in a long time, estimated 400 to 600,000 members who are there to root out any insurgents or a rebellion or turncoats or traitors to the regime. They're all looking for this. You don't think they're looking for this? They're killing people probably at random we don't even hear about. They're putting people in jail, threatening people. They're probably having, you know, family members turn against family members, like the Stasi in Nazi Germany, okay, and in Eastern Europe, Eastern Germany, okay, East Germany, East Berlin, all right, East Berlin, the Stasi having the secret police telling kids to turn on their parents. Anybody who's going against the regime, you know, we are the true power. We're the ones chosen by God, or whatever they're saying, or just power play. Look, we're gonna, like the Taliban used to come in. You're gonna fight for us. You don't want to fight for us? Well, we're gonna come back and we're gonna kill your family. But if you fight for us, we'll give you $15 to go shoot at the Americans. And by the way, you'll be safe. Oh, you don't want to fight for us? That's fine. But I'm the good guy. My bad guy friends are gonna come in 2 days. And if you decide not to fight for us, they're gonna come wipe you out, and then they'll make you watch. Okay, so I mean, there's a lot at play here. This is very, I hate to say it, but very, very, high level strategic thought analysis. And he's not wrong. This is what they should do and need to do. But it's something is probably being built right now, infrastructure being built. They need more destruction. They need a higher level of coercion, of compellence. But as I've said a million times on Valhalla with Nate, maybe not a million times, but a few times over the past few weeks, I've said, with Aaron and Nate on Valhalla on our Friday night War Room recall, the devil might be better than the devil that's waiting you. Because think about the people, the hardliners that are going to be required, or the fanatical level of resistance to defeat this regime. These people might be your friend one day and say, yeah, CIA, help us out. Yeah, arm us. Yeah, teach us, train us. Teach us bomb techniques. Teach us assassination. Teach us infantry tactics. Yeah, special forces, help us. And then when they get power, they might be your worst enemy because they're fresh and they're driven and they may have a more radicalized ideology than you thought. So again, does anybody remember, put a 1 in the chat if you remember that the CIA helped fund and, helped the Afghan fighters against the Russians in the 80s. And guess who was there on the ground fighting and learning from the CIA? Osama bin Laden. Okay, so lest we repeat some of these things from the past, we have to be very smart with the way they do these things. Now, make no mistake, in my opinion, I do believe we are building infrastructure. We are building a resistance. We are seeking out who can do it. They killed upwards of 40,000, they say now. They say anywhere from 20 to 40,000. The number I keep hearing now recently is 40,000 they killed. Well, maybe that was the force that was meant to resist the regime. 40,000 gone, killed, murdered, shot, beheaded, hung. Okay? Maybe those are the ones that could have done it. So again, you must, as a strategist, test your assumptions. As a leader, you must take a look at, what am I assuming to be true? And am I just passing the good idea fairy along here? Like, okay, for example, you're in business. We need to make more money. Oh, we're going to make more money with this new crazy idea, okay? And all we got to do is make horses fly. Oh, awesome. Let's go do it. Let's go make some horses fly. How do we do that? Well, you can make them grow wings. Yeah, cool, boss. Okay, make them grow wings. How do we do that? I don't know. Well, we can put jetpacks on them. Yeah, cool, boss. We can teach them how to fly helicopters. Like, it's all nonsense. It's all nutso talk, right? You got to deal with what is. We're talking about the two elite organizations, the Mossad and the CIA, going in there and, creating an uprising. Okay, well, who's going to uprise? Not going to be the CIA agents and the Mossad. These are agitators. These are the teachers. These are the ones giving you connection to U.S. and Israeli power and money and know-how and trainers. U.S. Special Forces on the ground would be a good thing. These are the real trainers, the real guys who are going to make it happen. Marine Raiders, U.S. Army Green Berets, okay? And of course, PJs to save the day for everything, as we talk with Aaron about. But, you know, Navy SEALs who also do training stuff now too, okay? And I'm not talking about the, you know, DevGru, combat applications group, Delta Force, stuff like that. I'm talking, you know, regular SOCOM assets, SEALs, Green Berets, Marine Raiders, okay? Who can do a lot of that infrastructure build, building the insurgent forces, but they need support. Where are you going to base them? Where are you going to train the people? Where are you going to find the guerrilla force, right? Where are you going to find these people? These are all real questions that need to be answered and talked about. And, you know, we're not there yet, okay? But if we seize a beachhead south of Bandar Abbas, you better believe it. If we seize Bandar Abbas, you better believe it. If we decide to go ahead and seize the oil fields that are in northeastern Iran, I forget the damn name now, even though I made a video about it. We seize some of those oil fields, okay, short of the mountains. You have a base of operations, or we build up a steel mountain, start basing in Iraq again, okay, and when they get the Kurds moving, okay, we got options. Allegedly, we armed the Kurds back in March or April. We armed the Kurds, sent them off into the mountains. Well, so far, not so good. Crickets right now. I don't know what's happened, but I haven't heard anything. Apparently, they bought 100 Toyota Highlanders or whatever, Hiluxes, those pickup trucks, Land Cruisers. They went off into the mountains to disappear. And I haven't heard anything. Not that I would, but I think by now we would have heard some independent journalism about a guerrilla force or about them being in the mountains, them doing stuff, sabotage, something, linking up with special forces. We haven't heard much, okay, because we've been in this ceasefire, pushing ceasefire back and forth, okay? But, you know, I get a little bit triggered when I hear this. These two, we tend to Hollywoodize everything and say, okay, these two elite organizations could bring Iran down, right? They could with time and with resources, with the right support. Make no mistake, they've done crazy stuff in the past if they get the right access to the right person, okay? But this is a very long-term game. Gaining sources and assets and all these things that these organizations do takes a long time, right? And I'm sure they have many assets in the country, right? They have context, asset sources, people that can work with them, infrastructure, all these things. But to the level of toppling a hardline regime like this one, after we did a decapitation strike, okay, if the decapitation strike didn't work, the next one's up came, and then we decapitated them, and the next one's up came, and they still didn't fall, you're going to need probably to mobilize a serious insurgent force, okay? And it's a little more, with all due respect to what the general's saying, and he probably knows even more than I do about a lot of things, but just this comment right now, I'm saying that this is not going to be the thing that does it. We're going to need a full special forces campaign, like I said before, supported by conventional military that can back them up with QRF and apply pressure, ground force pressure where necessary, and then leverage air power as well too. All the things. We don't need to take Tehran in order to get them to collapse, but we're going to have to make them feel that their strategic lines of communication are severely disrupted, okay? So let's keep going here. That's my 2 cents. Actually, my $10.
Are working. The two most proven militaries in the world today are working together against a common objective and sharing the values that we have. This,
and the general's 100% right about that too, okay?
reassessment, I think, has got to take place now, and let's get on with the details. The team around the president knows what to do here. So the CENTCOM commander and certainly the IDF leaders working for Prime Minister Netanyahu and these two magnificent intelligence organizations.
Well, he's basically saying, General Keen's basically saying, unleash the dogs, okay, everybody? He's saying, unleash the dogs, let the Mossad and the CIA do their thing. Like, similar to what I'm talking about. He's saying, let the Israeli military, U.S. military, do their thing. So, you know, Admiral Brown knows what to do, right? They all know what to do. Let them do their thing. The administration knows what needs to be done. But the question is this: will they do it? If they know what needs to be done in order to get this done, will they do it? In chat, this is where I'm going to come to you. Chat, is the administration willing to pay this price? Are they willing to do it? Okay? Your horse makes you fly sometimes, Matt. Yes. Okay. EJ, EJ, you're right. It's very true. Unfortunately, I mean, I love our guys. Okay, I've worked with them, and but I know what you're saying. Like, we don't always know. There's too much stuff in history that's happened that, we don't always know if we can trust exactly that what agenda they're going to serve. Right? We don't know. So I understand what you're saying. Let me see what you guys say though. Give me a 1 in the chat if you believe that the administration knows what needs to be done to get Iran to capitulate, to sign a deal, to basically quit, whether they stay in power or don't stay in power, and they're willing to do it. Give me a 1 if you think they know what to do and they're willing to do it. Give me a 0 if they don't know what to do and they're not willing to do it. Both. Okay? Okay. Jimmy John says no. Buff says Israel, let us do it for them. Yep. Lady Ann gives me the crazy fish. They are willing, Ben. They are controlled by the military-industrial complex. Frosty, good point. So actually, it's in their best interest to do it, to actually do it. I see what you're saying. But politically, Frosty, then the next question is this. Everyone says they don't know what to do. They're not willing to do it. Jonathan Mitchell says they do know what to do. They're willing to do it. Okay. Let me ask a new one. I'll let everybody get their answers in real quick for that one. Freedom says 0. 0. Okay, lots of zeros. They don't know what to do. They're not willing to do it. But let me ask you. Let's suppose that Frosty is right, that they're willing, that the military-industrial complex is driving them. They know what to do and they're willing to do it. But let me ask you, will politics, political gains hold them back? Is it the political calculus holding them back from doing what needs to be done in Iran? And guys, this is purely analytical, almost like, this is purely analytical speaking, strategically speaking. I am not advocating for war. I'm not advocating for an invasion, just so everybody knows that who's new here, doesn't think, holy cow, we stumbled onto the right-wing crazy man, right? We are making a strategic analysis and assessment in order to do a case study on leadership of the biggest case in the world right now, okay, the Iran war, so we can improve our own decision-making, our own analysis, our own strategy making, okay? That's what this is for. I'm using the most famous case out there. All right, let's see. Wanwick says Congress won't vote for it. They don't know what to do, but they will do it. You're right, Makeup. Unfortunately, Donald and Peg said, Buff, I see you misspelled the Secretary of War's name. What are we doing? Donald and Peg Seth have no idea what to do. The military is out of mission. Critical supplies. Got it. Okay, Buff. People will not support it. Wanwick. Okay. Got it. Okay. New parties as a consequence. Yeah, you're right. Jimmy John's right. We have some new parties emerging, right? Okay. I don't think politics will affect the decision. Frosty, midterms are cooked. Okay. Trump thinks he has the best polling numbers and doesn't even know what's going on. Yeah, Buff. I mean, okay. I can see we have a high degree of confidence here. Belmont. I don't think anyone will trust our intentions. Okay. Fly. There's no congressional consensus. Gotcha, EJ. Okay. Let's keep on rolling. On to the next one. We know what General Keane thinks, right? Let's find out. Let me find old Monsieur Rubio. If I can find him, I think I might not have. Hold on, I'm gonna get a little Marco Rubio in here. Let's see. Let's pull this up. All right, here we go. Let's just see what this one is.
Getting out either. That's not an act of war. That's a defensive measure. It's a counter to what they have decided to do. You know what is an act of war? Putting mines in the water. Why don't the members of Congress, whoever it is complaining about it, they should be all over that. These guys put mines in the water. That alone, mining in the water is illegal, period, under any circumstances, and they've done it. This is crazy stuff, but this is what they've done. On Cuba, oil blockade on Cuba. There's no oil blockade on Cuba per se. Here's what's happening with Cuba, okay? Cuba used to get free oil from Venezuela.
All right, we're talking about Cuba with Marco Rubio. Let me just see here if we're going back to Iran. Okay, it looks like we are not. I'm going to pull up. Here we go. Okay, let's see this one here. Okay, let's listen to this real quick. Rubio claims progress in talks to reopen Hormuz. Deal soon. Qatar says drafts of potential U.S. Iran deal being circulated. Okay, this is one of those non-talking ones. I'll read it to you. U.S. has used virtually all of its long-range precision missiles. Is this true? Guys, do we think the U.S. has used virtually all of its long-range precision missiles? Give me a 1 in the chat if you think that. Keith, we'll get into Cuba another time. I studied up on it today, but it's just too much for tonight. We'll be here till like freaking midnight. At least we'll be here for like 7 hours, 6 hours. Do you guys think we are completely out of our long-range precision missiles? Do you think this is true? Give me a 1 in the chat if you think this is true. Give me a 0 if it's not true. Let me see what you guys think about that. Okay, no, probably fake news. Yep, 0 Crusaders, 0 propaganda. They are scrambling right now. The far right. Okay, freedom. Let's see. If you guys think we're all out of our long-range precision missiles, give me a 1. 0 if not. We're tapping into reserve for sure. 0, 0. Freedom says 1. EJ 0. Jason 0. Stockpiles are classified. There you go, propaganda. That's an informed answer. Okay, very informed answer. 0. I think, yeah, very close. Lisa Jones. Okay. 0, but we can't fight a near peer anymore. Okay, Jimmy Johns. Yep. Mark says 0. No, don't know, but hope not. Yeah, Frost, exactly. Keith says 1. Yes. Okay. Guys, a lot of good answers in there. A lot of smart answers. I saw a lot of qualified answers too. I think personally, my feeling is that we are probably, really pushing to rebuild. Why do I think that? I think that, yes, Pappas nunchuck, John. You caught that when I hit my brother in the head with the nunchucks. That was so bad. I remember really thinking, like, this is like Kung Fu Theater. I'm going to hit him with these nunchucks. He's done, man. This is a wooden nunchuck. What a dumbass I was, right? I hit him. And he just looked at me. He goes, "Oh, you're dead." And that was it. I think at the time he was like 14, I was 11, or maybe he was like 13, I was 10. Like, these are major differences, right? And my friend was telling him, "Don't kill him, don't beat him up. He didn't mean it." So bad. But that's how you learn as a young guy what not to do. So I think that based upon the meeting when we pulled all of the major defense corporations into the White House and had conversations with them, talked to them, I think Secretary Hegseth, Pete Hegseth, I think that the administration was like, look, be ready to ramp stuff up if we go to major war here, okay? We are going to major war, so you need to be ready to increase our supplies, our stocks, our magazines, refill them. The only thing that is true, as many of you are alluding to and pointing out, is that it's very hard to keep up this pace for a long time. Because if the cost of war, if they're sending a $40,000 drone against a $5 million missile or $50 million missile, depending on what we're talking about, then, eventually there's an asymmetry of cost on this whole thing, okay? And we can't keep up. We can't replenish our stocks fast enough, our magazines fast enough to keep up with the pace of the war. And they know that. It's part of the plan, okay? Because just like they demonstrated in Israel, they overwhelmed all the air defenses, and then they stuck in the dagger, right? They stuck in the dagger missile that was precision, struck the target. The drones and the other missiles came to overwhelm and empty the magazines of the arrow sling, whatever it is. They have the arrow sling in the third ring. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but all these different defense systems, Iron Dome and all this stuff like that Israel has, and then they insert the dagger at the end when, they're so distracted. Like, you ever play that game with a friend? You're playing like water balloons or something with your friend. You throw a ball up in the air. They track the ball, and then you beam them with the second one. Even better, you throw 1, 2. They track both, and then you beam them, okay? So that's one way to do it. That's what actually ninjas used to use with a throwing star. That was the whole technique with throwing stars. Ninjas with a throwing star, okay, we're really getting beyond everything right now, but, think of it this way. Ninjas kept throwing stars in their little lapels in their ninja outfit, right? And they used to throw the throwing stars in people's face, right? And so throwing stars would go to their eyes, and they'd blink for a second. By then, the ninja had the sword out. It would strike them down, okay? So that's like I was taught a long time ago when I was, when I was younger. by my own martial arts teacher, said always keep some change in your pocket. Keep a little change in your pocket, and if it gets dangerous, you can keep it in your left hand. You throw the change in someone's eyes, and then you can hit them, okay? So if you get surrounded by a couple people, something like that, this is a similar strategy. You guys are learning a lot tonight about nunchucks and throwing stars and ninja outfits, okay? I got a lot for you tonight, a lot of good stuff. So let's listen a little bit more here. Let's keep going. Okay, a blast at the Shamsabad Industrial Park near Tehran injured 18 people, according to a spokesperson for Tehran's province's emergency services. Davood Vali, a board member of the industrial park, said the explosion occurred inside a tank at a factory in the park's aluminum manufacturing section. Okay. Okay, this has been targeted multiple times during previous periods of conflict. All right, let's pull up really fast a ATACMS missile, because this is what they're saying is depleted. All right, here we go. Here's an ATACMS. So this is what they're saying is also depleted, okay? The defense post. A United States Army M142 highly mobile artillery rocket system, HIMARS, fires an MGM-140, the long arm of precision, ultimate guide to ATACMS and its successor. All right, a significant shift in geopolitical strategy unfolded as President Joe Biden. This is an old article, but we'll talk about the ATACMS. ATACMS, pronounced ATACMS, is a long-range, precision-guided ballistic missile system developed by the U.S. and manufactured by Lockheed Martin. Its recent deployment has solidified its reputation as a game-changer in contemporary warfare. Let's see. Anything about this specifically? Okay. It superseded the Lance missile with a maximum conventional warhead range of merely 46 miles. The ATACMS now has, let's see, I'm looking for exact range, 165 to 185 miles. Okay, and we have things that go even further than this. Okay, so just an example, and they're very precise as well too. Just so we're all on the same page. Okay? All right, right now we're going to pivot really quickly over to President Trump. Hear what he has to say about this.
We are.
Okay, and before I do that, this is the thing. Now, Rubio had said that Iran is begging us indirectly and directly for a deal. Okay, he even said when he was in Asia this week that at the Asia Pacific forum he was at, I can't remember if it was ASEAN, it might have been an ASEAN forum, that some of the countries were saying that Iran had contacted them and was saying to reach out to Marco Rubio and say, we want a deal. And pretty crazy, right? That this is happening even at an Asia Pacific forum. So he's saying that progress is made, but we're definitely not, we're not ready to make a deal for the Strait of Hormuz. And the ultimate deal we want is denuclearization, all right? So Rubio wants to win by sequencing. Trump wants to win by pressure and optionality, okay? Hit him, back off a little bit. Hit him, back off again, all right? On August 3rd, President Trump called them unbelievably duplicitous and then said talks are underway. This is their last chance to sign a good document, okay? You've heard this so many times. If they don't sign this, we're going to hit them really hard. And I want to give them every last chance before decapitation. But wait a second. Didn't we already decapitate them? I thought we had. I thought we decapitated them many times. So I don't know what this means. I'm sure many of you don't know what this means. We don't know fully what's going on. Escalate, pause, escalate, okay? Real results and real cost. He canceled the biggest attack, quote unquote, the biggest attack since World War II, twice. And kept on making more threats. Iran's acting defense minister filed the pullback under psychological operations in a war of calculations. Okay, that's a quote. He was saying that President Trump is trying to put psychological pressure on us that the biggest attack since World War II is coming. All right. And he's trying to do psyops to us, basically, to make us afraid and then pull back because he's actually calculating, well, do we really want to do that right now? Is it really the right time to do that just now? Okay. So General Jack Keane and all the military guys, basically a lot of the military, former commanders at least, are saying you need to do something. You need to strike. You need to unleash the dogs on them, albeit with precision, albeit minimize, civilian casualties. You heard what General Jack Keane said. Rubio is saying, using negotiation, using sequencing, look for the deal. President Trump is putting pressure and then backing off, pressure then backing off. But I hate to say it, but for me, this is an adversary telling you that they know your pattern. They know what you're going to do. He's saying biggest attack since World War II, not going to happen. It doesn't happen, okay? So remember this in leadership. When you're doing this, your leadership sometimes will do this, right? Someone wants to break the problem, and one wants to do sequencing to gradually, incrementally fix it. That's like Marco Rubio. And one wants to keep their options open. It's always keeping options open. Don't commit to anything. See what works, see what sticks, do more of that, switch it up. That's President Trump, okay? If you can't understand these three theories, you're not really fully understanding how different people on your team can come up with different strategies. But you need to recognize what each one's default is, okay? Like General Jack Keane's always going to want to go for the big smash. Lots of calculations need to be taken a look at there, right? But he's not wrong. He's not wrong. The strategy we're using right now is not working, okay? I think it's really important, though, to make sure that you understand what winning looks like. What is winning actually going to look like for you? And you pursue a clear path that will allow the people who support you, aka the American people and their representatives, and all the things that you are the good steward for, all the resources and equipment in the military that you are the commander-in-chief for and the steward for. You need to have a clear path and a clear path to victory, a clear idea of what winning looks like in the next 6 months, the next 12 months, okay? What are we going to do to win? And not this back and forth all the time. And we keep saying they're going to get a deal, they're going to get a deal. We never hear about this is our strategy, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. Of course, you don't want to give the whole plan to them. You don't want to give the whole plan to the enemy, but you need to let the American people know we have a serious plan, we've got options, and right now we're doing this one. And if they don't want to play with that one, we're going to do the General Jack Keane option, okay? But they've got to give something to get something. If you don't get anything through your coercion, through your military operations, okay, you need to reassess how effective you're actually being at striking at the heart of what really matters and what they are protecting the most, okay? And maybe that's where some intelligence operations could help. Maybe that's where building the insurgent force would help. But whatever we're doing right now, it hasn't done anything to dislodge the main problem, okay? We don't have a nuclear deal. Strait of Hormuz are closed. We have not ended their ability to project power, and the regime is nowhere near to quitting or to making a favorable deal right now, as we've defined as winning, okay? So let's hear President Trump.
We're awaiting word of a potential deal with Iran tied to shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz. The Trump administration says it could come as soon as today, but the president is still keeping military options, he says, on the table.
Well, if they back out again, they're going to get hit really hard. They know that.
I mean, I at this point, guys, I hate to even say this, but give me a 1 in the chat if you believe if Iran backs out again, they're going to get hit really hard. Give me a 0 in the chat if you don't believe they're going to get hit really hard if they back out again. If you don't, I mean, it's like the boy who cried wolf. We're crying wolf so many times. I don't think anyone believes it. I don't think the Iranians believe it. Okay? So let me see what you guys say. Give me a 1 in the chat if you think, yeah, 0, lots of 0. Okay, you guys heard me. Belmont 0, Jimmy John 0, Crusader 1. Okay, Crusader. Okay, you might be right. And this might be the time you're right. Flying Phoenix 0. Juan Wick, tired of him saying it. 0. I agree. I just think we should do it. Right? Or don't say it. Say, yeah, we're going to give him a little more time. Blowing smoke. Keith, we're not Afghanistan, Crusader. Okay. EJ, no credibility at this point. Yeah, that's the problem. See, guys, this is the problem. And why I say this is a leadership case study, right? As a leader, you need to close the say-do gap. If your say-do gap, meaning what you say and what you do, there's a big gap, you're going to lose confidence. You're going to lose credibility. People aren't going to listen to you. They're not going to follow you. They're not going to be afraid of you. They're not going to listen to you trying to enforce policy, enforce the rules, or threaten them. Okay? It's really, really, yes, right? It's really important. Okay? Mark, 0. Okay. Well, if Mark said 0, then we're really at 0 for sure. All right, let's keep going.
That they understand that. I have no choice. They can't have a new.
I don't think they understand that at all. I'm sorry. He said they understand that. Guys, I just got done saying that the acting defense minister just said, like 2 days ago, the pullback from the World War II level, largest attack ever on Iran is just psychological operations and a war of calculations, okay? He's not saying he chickened out. He's saying he's trying to mess with us. And he's also realizing, what's it going to do? You're going to waste a ton of money, a ton of ammunition. You might do some damage. You could do some damage. But if you really go nuts, you're going to have the whole global community, the world turn against you, your allies and partners, say, what are you doing? You know, like if you go nuclear or if you start bombing them on the level of a World War II German city, okay, or Tokyo, firebombing, you know, to these horrific levels, you're going to lose your hegemonic soft power like I talked about before. No one's going to listen to you. And this is a real problem. When people stop listening to you, you start having to enforce your strength through action, like actually proving you're strong. Because right now we're not proving we're strong. Okay, I'm just saying this. I like that we have restraint. Make no mistake. I like that we have restraint. Okay, I'm never going to be the one to say the taco. Okay, I'm just like, you know, chickening out. I don't want to see us bomb them into oblivion, but I also don't want to say something that we're not going to do. Okay, that's the difference for me. Because I think if we have to demonstrate restraint, we also have to demonstrate strength. We also have to demonstrate that what we say we're going to do. Okay. Otherwise, we lose credibility. And then what happens? China looks at us and says, "You guys aren't so tough like we thought you were." Okay. The Houthis look at us and say, "You're not so tough like we thought you were." Other countries, Russia says, "Yeah, you used to be tougher, stronger, scarier. You're not that scary anymore." And we could say, "Well, we weren't trying." And I want to tell you that even if you weren't trying, even if you really weren't, guess what? Nobody believes you. Now they're like, "Yeah, we don't believe you. Now you got to prove it." And now we got to prove it. And when we have to prove it, we got to go double live Donkey Kong and go nuts and let the 800-pound gorilla out and pound everybody into oblivion. Death and destruction and huge sunken cost for us. Huge cost, blood and treasure. Soft power, rebuilding the world order maybe. Okay? Definitely rebuilding our reputation abroad. Okay? Where American culture is not looked at as so cool. People don't want to listen to it. Okay? All these things. Because we do some kind of destruction that's disproportionate to what's going on. All right? So there's a lot at stake here, and that's what the defense minister for Iran means by war of calculations, too. You do have to calculate. You could say that, but then you pull back because you're like, yeah, I really don't want to because it's not the right time for it. Okay? So think about this as a leader. You got to be very precise with your words, and you got to close the say-do gap. There's one thing for sure. You guys know this, whether you're a leader, a team leader, a parent, a coach, whatever, when you say it and you give the warning, you got to back it up. And now we've done a huge amount of destruction to them. Make no mistake. We destroyed their Navy. We destroyed many of their defense industrial complex. We've destroyed tons of things. We've killed many of their leaders. We've killed almost 6,000 of their military personnel. We've done a lot of destruction, no doubt about it. But we diminish what we've done, and we diminish ourselves when we keep on saying, you know, we're going to go after them, we're going to do it, hit them harder than ever. And then we just don't do it, okay? Or, or we say there's a deal, and there's no deal. Or they're going to hold the deal. And if they don't, there's big consequences, but there aren't really big consequences. Because we say we've already destroyed everything there is to destroy. And now what? Now what do we do? Okay? I just think we have to have also a level of transparency that will strengthen the American people at home. It will strengthen our political resolve. Because there's real danger, as one of you pointed out in the chat, new political parties are probably, in the hot magma forming right now because people are sick of this doublespeak. They're sick of this talking out of two sides of your mouth. And again, a leadership perspective, I'm not telling you who to vote for. Again, not a political channel, I'm not politically affiliated. I am an independent. I think what I want to think. Really about leadership and business, though. There is a cost to not having your say-do gap closed. Okay? People don't believe you. They don't trust you. Trust goes down, right? When you say, trust me when I say I'm going to whoop your ass if you don't do this, guess what? They don't do it. You better get to ass whooping. Because if you don't, people are like, yeah, you're not really who you say you are. Yeah, you're not really as tough as you say you are. You're not this and you're not that. Okay? And if your plan is, we're going to go about it diplomatically because that's what we believe in. We've already done enough destruction to them. We're going to solve this diplomatically. And if we need to, we'll go back in. But otherwise, we are committed to a diplomatic solution. Then say it. Then say it, right? Say it. And I know they say all options are on the table, but I think you are going to lose the support of the American people and the trust, special trust and confidence if you don't do that, okay? So, again, this is the most consequential military decision in a generation. And we're going to ask the question here in a minute, is it being timed on an election calendar, okay? We're going to look at that in a second. Let's watch a little bit more. We're going to get back to it.
Nuclear weapons, very simply. I have no choice. They can't have a nuclear weapons, very simply.
Let's bring in now Fox News contributor Mike Pompeo.
Yeah, but again, I'll say it. I have no choice. They can't have a nuclear weapon. It's that simple. Okay, but you smashed them in June. You're smashing them now. They're probably not going to build a nuclear weapon anytime soon. And if they do, can't we smash them again? If they're getting close, can we smash them again? And use the stealth fighters again? And can't we just deep bunker bomb them in every place possible that they can't develop it? We can make it a regular party if we want to. Get high intelligence, confidence, smash them again. Okay? Because we're not going to, unless we get on the ground, we're not getting the enriched uranium. We're not getting the enriched uranium unless we do a ground operation, a serious one, where we're probably going to take casualties. Let's be honest. Okay? We came this close to that down pilot rescue, and Aaron's talked about it on many channels. Watch where he's talked about it, okay, in a lot of places. Probably to taking some casualties, okay? Aircraft being shot down, pilot almost lost. Our guys, our special operators getting wounded, okay? These are not operations without risk. All right, let's keep going before I talk to you guys for 6 hours.
A former Secretary of State and former CIA director. Mr. Secretary, welcome to you. Welcome back to the program. I just want to point out that there seems to be a lot of growing optimism right now. We saw it yesterday. We saw it again today.
Growing optimism? Growing optimism? Where? What are we talking about?
In the stock market and the energy market, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, record high again today.
Again, though, this is where President Trump is a master, because I know every single one of us doesn't want to see the market go down, okay? And some of the things he's doing, the words he's using are directed at manipulating the markets. Make no mistake, I'm not such a fool to think that, well, I'm a fool sometimes, but not right now. I'm not so foolish, let's say, to not acknowledge that fact. And so for that is a very savvy thing to do. Yeah, it's not gonna be a problem. We're gonna get a deal. Okay, it keeps markets calm, keeps people calm. Markets don't do a crazy reaction, emotional reaction, right? So let's keep going.
Another 438 points. Those oil prices are dropping on hopes of a deal. Oil now is...
Again, oil prices are dropping on hopes of a deal, okay? So crazy or crazy like a fox, right? We want this thing to be over. But in the meantime, before it's fully over, we don't want the oil prices to skyrocket, and we don't want the Dow Jones to drop considerably, the market to get tanked, okay? So there's a lot to consider as we do this, a lot to consider. And you can like it, you can hate it, you can say whatever. I'm calling it like I see it. I'm just going to give you guys my unfettered, unfiltered, best observations and analysis of this. in strategic sense, in a leadership decision-making sense, in the lessons learned for leadership and decision-making and strategy sense. Okay, let's keep going.
Firmly back below $75 a barrel, down another almost 2% today.
Okay.
So is this optimism that we are seeing on a potential deal warranted from your view?
Sandra, it's great to be with you. My take on this is we better see what's in it. And then second, Sandra, you and I have now lived this. I lived it when I was Secretary of State. Every single deal the Iranians have ever signed up on, whether it was the JCPOA, the MOU with President Trump, they've walked away from. They've gone on and killed more Americans. There's a very little reason to expect that whatever particular arrangements they now think they're coming to an agreement on, that the Iranians will actually honor that for any extended period of time. They don't want to open the strait without charging a toll. That takes away all their leverage. It will deny them what it is they really want. They want to go build a nuclear weapon, something President Trump has said can't happen. And so
there are many people saying that no matter what happens from all this, the Iranians are going to walk away. They're going to walk away, and they're going to know one thing for sure, that they must build a nuclear weapon. They must get to power parity to be a respected member of the nuclear armed group in the world, okay? Usually that turns you into a member of the UN Security Council, right? So many analysts and experts are saying that that's the one big walk away, one thing they're going to walk away from. So if this regime survives, President Trump is right. They're going to try and go for a nuclear weapon for sure, okay? Were they trying before? Of course they were. Of course they were. But the one saving grace they had was that the Ayatollah had made a religious, edict to say, don't develop a nuclear weapon, because what's going to happen is we're going to get the wrath of the United States coming right at us, and it's going to be hell, and it's going to destroy us. It's going to really make it bad for our people, for our way of life, for our regime. We don't want that. And so then what happened is hell came to them, and they're still standing, and it's bad. Terrible, right? Terrible. There's a great level of destruction there in their country. But they're still standing. The regime is still there. The same regime, the same philosophy, the same system of government is still in place. So, again, we look at the options available to us. The only way to really guarantee there's no nuclear weapon, I hate to say it, I've been saying it since April, or since March, since this started, you're going to have to go in the ground and get the damn stuff, okay? And you're going to have to get that regime to be over and to flip. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with the same guys again, the same thing in the next 10 years. Again, unless there's some new age, new way of doing things where all of a sudden they become our friends and our best friends and they love us, I don't think that's ever going to be possible based upon what their ideology is. Guys, World War II was a major war of ideology. Okay, make no mistake. Fascism, communism, capitalism, okay? Major war of ideology. Also war of resources and economies, things like that. But ideology drove a lot of these things. You have to understand that ideology and ideas can drive warfare, can drive strategic cultures like Iran's, to make them resist, to make them hang on when it looks like there's no hope left. Okay? So unfortunately, again, I hate to say it, I don't know how we're going to get this done. And that's why I'm saying we can't win this war with this current strategy. It's one of those things where once you go into it, you'll release the dogs of war. We don't know what's going to happen. I hope I'm wrong. I hope all of a sudden we make the best deal ever and it all ends. That's what I hope. But I don't think so. I don't think that's how it's going to be. And unfortunately, this may last well beyond the Trump administration. Okay? So this may lead to some road where we do have to eventually do a major operation and pound them into oblivion. And so I'm just saying, what's coming to my mind as I look at this honestly. Okay? I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm completely wrong. And we can all have a good laugh about it. Say, Ben, you were so wrong. I said, I know, wasn't that great? Unfortunately, I don't think so. Unfortunately, I do not think so. Because again, as a student of history and also of strategy and of ends, ways, and means and the way things work and human nature, the nature of warfare, strategy, all these things tells me that we are going to need to use the right tool for the job. And if this is the stated aim to not make sure they don't have nuclear weapons, the right tool for the job is major warfare, right? Escalation, unfortunately. Okay. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm completely wrong. I don't want to see it, neither do you. But here's where we're at. Okay, let's watch a little bit more of this.
We'll have to see what's in the agreement. We'll have to see what the Iranians actually commit to. But rather than the piece of paper, we should look at the IRGC's actions on the ground. These are the world's largest state sponsor of terror. There's no reason to think they've turned over a new leaf.
But I do want to say this. Never underestimate, as a ray of hope, never underestimate the power of a new leader or new leadership. Okay? A new spirit, new leader may be able to hold this thing together in Iran. I don't know. I hope so. Okay? But let's keep on driving. For right now, I am pessimistic about this. Okay? As I always say, I'm ferociously optimistic. The ferocious optimism says we neutralize threats. We go right at threats, we deal with them, we neutralize them, and we seize opportunities. Okay? We don't put our head in the sand and imagine, oh, everything's fine, just be optimistic and be happy. No, we deal with it. Okay? That's ferocious optimism in a nutshell. That's what I teach. That's what I talk about. All right? So let's keep on rolling here. Okay? So I want to talk about this midterm clock because the fact that this could all be driven by the midterm elections, okay? They're going to keep on delaying, believing that this is some big deal to where Trump won't be able to continue the war if the Republicans lose the House. I think this is, they have a pretty good strategy, right? They have a pretty good strategy on this. Also, the economic pressure of this entire thing with the straits being closed will cause a lot of pressure as well, too. Now, I know the administration and other countries around the world are working furiously to make sure that the economic shocks are not as bad as predicted, okay? With fertilizer, with mining supplies, with gas, with oil, with all these things, okay? With, throughput of goods and all these things. But just understand that, nobody has stated that the tempo of the war is tied to November right now. But these escalating gas costs, casualties, and war powers, okay, like the war powers, the Senate blocked a war powers resolution 50-49 on the 31st of July. The second failure in 2 weeks, right? After November, the constraint is going to be gone for 2 years, though. So what is that going to mean? Is that going to mean that we are going to go full go at them? I know some people have said that this could mean, Trump gets impeached. I don't know. I don't know what that means, okay? Can he still prosecute the war? Probably, okay? But every organization has a calendar they're watching, right? And that overrides the strategy. You want to choose a strategy where time is on your side. Time is not on our side right now, okay? Because Iran is in its own country. All it has to do is wait us out. And for us to beat this time strategy, okay, where time is on their side, we're going to have to go in there and really, increase the pressure dramatically, okay? Dramatically increase the pressure, unfortunately, as I said before, okay? So we have some ground options too, okay? Karg Island has been talked about, okay? 90% of Iran's crude oil exports. Force flow, 3,000 from the 82nd Airborne, plus 2 MEUs, okay? About, 5,000. We've got about, let's say actually combat troops, about 3,000 combat troops that are in the region right there that could be used for raids, for attacks, not for a sustained campaign though, okay? I just think though, we're also looking at creating a lot of casualties if we do that, okay? So let's listen a little bit more here and then we're gonna go into some odds and some game theory and talk about this. And I wanna get to you as well too about what are some of the longer term shocks politically at home with this. Let's look.
We know that President Trump has said and made very clear the goal is to open back up that strait and for Iran to never have a nuclear weapon. Here he was yesterday tying this all together with gas prices. Listen.
They had an all-day negotiation today, and it looks like things are very good. And if that happens where the strait is opened up, they'll never have a nuclear weapon. But if the strait opens up, and it's partially opened anyway, and as you know, we control the strait totally through the blockade. But if we have no friction, then oil will go down to, I think it'll go down to $2.50 a gallon.
which is a far cry from where we are today. Right now, gasoline prices, national average AAA, we're back to $4.08 a gallon. So the president.
All right. And so again, I leave you with this on the screen for these gas prices because this is one of the most significant things for the midterm elections, for political poll support, things like that, are the gas prices, the oil prices, and affordability overall for people's lives, right? So let's talk about this, okay? The odds, the game theory. What the money's saying right now, okay? So the money right now, Polymarket, is saying the U.S. invades Iran before 2027, 31%. Okay? $56 million being traded about this. Reasoning on it, logistics, alliance constraints, Congress all favor strikes and blockades over the invasion. Calibration on this. In January, the U.S. strikes Iran by 30 June. The contract ran 48% all the way to 83% in 2 weeks. Okay? And they were right. It was right. Okay? So as this is rising up week over week, Polymarket predicting major U.S. invasion of Iran before 2027, it's going up. But again, there's some things that we have to look out for, and we'll talk about that, such as deployment orders, movement of troops, more troops into the region, all these things are the trigger lines that we haven't seen yet, okay? Some of the analysts are saying that there's a self-perpetuating logic of escalation here. It could evolve in ways that are not anticipated or controllable, okay? Because both sides retain a clear interest in avoiding all-out war, though, at the same time, okay? A big but there. Also, Al Jazeera has said that the most likely outcome is going to be stalemate. Both sides are pursuing attrition right now, testing the other's capacity to endure. The ceasefire actually is tactical. It's not a pause, not a resolution. Okay, and then the Atlas Institute for Endgames. They are talking about the worst case scenario is not a bigger war. It's a collapse with no successor, okay? Leaving no one to address, to negotiate with, okay, which is a possibility. So if Iran collapses, though, we have to think, what comes out of that? What comes out of a collapsed Iran? Is it better? Is it worse? I think this is what we are hoping for the long term, that if the people don't rise up, and take over, the collapse of Iran is the best thing that we could hope for. I say we. The best thing the Trump administration could hope for is the regime collapses, meaning it's not really overthrown. It's just doesn't have any more money, doesn't have any more power, doesn't have any more beans, bullets, band-aids. It doesn't have any gas, and therefore it can't enforce law. It can't enforce rule of order. It just runs out of stuff, okay? What is the chance of that happening? I think they're saying that this is actually, I wouldn't say most probable by any means, but it's the worst case scenario where all of a sudden you just have Iran drifting, where a more hardened IRGC element could take over, or a more fanatical group, an IRGC splinter group could take over, okay? This is not a great scenario, honestly, okay? So there are 4 mechanisms. Attrition with incomplete information. No one knows the other side's threshold. It's a big thing. Both are paying in blood and treasure, all right? And then we're using escalation as communication. The strikes are messages. They're bids about resolve, showing, this is what I can take versus what you can take. This is how serious we are about this, okay? We're exploring their pain threshold right now. And then, of course, we got the chicken problem, okay? The chicken problem here is that the winning move is visibly throwing your steering wheel out the window, okay? Which Iran has really done. They've thrown the steering wheel out the window structurally. The IRGC, as I've said it many times, cannot survive capitulation. So its commitment is credible, right? It's very believable. It's committed all the way because they know if they don't win, if they lose, they're going to die. That's what they believe, okay? The United States, America, cannot match that. The Trump administration, okay, Trump faces an election, the whole administration, right? They face an election in 90 days, and he's replaceable in the next 30 months. So the commitment is irrecoverable, is inherently reversible, right? The commitment is inherently weaker because he's replaceable anyway. These are all by elections, by popular support, okay? The latter here, and here's my judgment on this. Okay? Protracted attrition past November. Where analytical consensus sits and where I sit, I'll just say, okay? I think we're going to have protracted attrition past November. That's what I think we're going to have, okay? I think we might get a little bit of a Hormuz settlement. I think that's possible. I don't think we're going to get the nuclear deal yet because, again, you have to go in and get the stuff. I think we're going to see limited ground action. I think we'll see that 100%. Maybe in Karg, maybe Pickaxe Mountain, maybe around Bandar Abbas, or seizing that territory, taking a foothold south of Bandar Abbas on the southern coast of Iran, down there, so we can build up combat power. It's a major threat if we do that. I think we're going to see a regional widening too. The Bab al-Mandab Strait closed again. Houthis getting involved. Israel re-entering. We're going to see some of these things, okay? A full invasion, as Polymarket said, 31%. Polymarket right now is at 31% for a full invasion until 2027, okay? I think we're going to look to see after the midterm elections, I think we're going to have the steady state, same stuff, bombing, no bombing. We're going to have a deal, no deal, until the midterm elections. That's what I think. I think we might see some raids. We might see us seize a foothold, a toehold in the southern Iranian coast. But again, I just feel that major invasion, we're not going to see that. We're not going to start seeing an uptick for that until after the midterm elections. Major invasion, I think we'd have to wait until 2027 to really see if that's going to manifest. Again, we're going to need at least a whole month to 3 month buildup of troops. You're going to need 3 to 6, let's say 1 month, more than that, probably a 3 to 6 month buildup of troops in the region. Just like Desert Shield went into Desert Storm, okay? Just like in Operation Iraqi Freedom, the same thing, okay? Buildup of troops. That's going to be your trigger when you see that, okay? Big trigger lines to see. When you see amphibious shipping with tons of stuff flowing into the region, into the theater, you know it's going down, right? You see more MUs, Marine Expeditionary Force, 40,000 Marines showing up, right? You see the evacuation posture raising for the State Department, not just saying be on the lookout, but depart now, everybody leave. You start seeing stuff like that, get ready, okay? When you see the $90 billion munition supplemental moving in Congress, money precedes forces. If you see that get pushed through, you know we're on our way. The Houthi posture at Bab al-Mandeb. Reuters reported Iran asked them to be prepared to close it if we hit Iran's power grid, okay? So 2 choke points is a different war, and it's going to bring Saudi Arabia heavily into the war as well too, okay? Making this a much more dangerous regional conflict, regional war, okay? And when you see the Gulf states shifting from mediating to fighting, they already flew joint strikes with U.S. aircraft on the 28th of July. So when we see that, if we see a tempo change in the second week of November with no change in the ground, okay, meaning no change between the negotiations or any change in the posture from Iran, if we see a tempo change in the second week of November, all right, you know the chances of the invasion are going up. But again, look for those tripwires, look for troop movements, look for more fighting, and look for the second straight closure, Bab al-Mandeb, okay? But I want to say some executives will forecast in binaries, okay, as a leadership lens. Where again, this is a leadership case study for us, a decision-making case study. Many leaders will forecast in binaries. It's this or it's that. A real professional, though, a real strategist, okay, someone who has some experience in all of this in leadership, will forecast in distributions, right? Forecast in assumptions with confidence levels. You'll look at different options, optionality, different options for what can happen, different potentialities with confidence levels. You know, it's low, medium, high. If you can, assign a written down number, a percentage to it. Make your team, if you're with a team, put down a percentage on the 3 biggest assumptions you have. Remember I told you guys about the assumptions? A lot of this could have been prevented if we really would have weighed these assumptions properly. Or you get an outside expert, someone who's not, maybe even a rival, to say, hey, what do you think about this? I think you're crazy. I think this is stupid, okay? I don't think this is a good idea. I think you have a bad assumption there, okay? You can still make the decision to go. You can still do what you have to do, but you got to hear many voices when you're developing these strategies, okay? Trusted voices, of course, but also you want to look at the counterpoint, spin the map around and see, am I missing something here? What am I missing? Why am I assuming that a decapitation strike will bring down the regime? Why am I assuming that we can get this over with quickly? Why do I have all these assumptions? What if I'm wrong? You have to ask that question. What if I'm wrong? What is it going to cost? What are the things here? How can we mitigate the risk? Okay. Also, a two-level game. Because you need to stop asking about, okay, two-level game. The person across the table often cannot accept a good deal because of their second table. In negotiation, we also call this a process interest, okay? So sometimes in negotiation, people not only have an interest in what comes out of the negotiation, but the second table is how are they perceived from their supporters, from their people, from their team, their constituents. Okay, they have an interest in the process of the negotiation. They have an interest in how they appear, what their reputation is like. Do they appear tough and hard? They're playing the game, again, the two-level game. Iran is worried about the way they come off in these negotiations, in this conflict. We may be worried about the end result, but they're worried about how they're perceived, how the regime's reputation is, how they are performing, how people perceive them, their perception, their branding. What is their brand going to be coming out of this? Oh, tough as nails, hard. They resisted all the way. They resisted the United States all the way, okay? What is the United States brand going to be after this? Very important, okay? Now, we're going to talk about something here, and it's a very, very big, important one, okay? It might be the most important part of the night. And I'm going to ask you guys right now, we're going to ask the question, is this America's Suez moment, okay? Is this America's Suez moment, right? Let's talk about what was UK's Suez Canal moment, okay? In 1956, Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal. Britain, France, and Israel went to take it back, okay? It was militarily successful. Then the United States, believe it or not, destroyed Britain, okay, economically. President Eisenhower refused a sterling rescue, okay, and blocked IMF support, the International Monetary Fund support. Within weeks, the UK, British withdrew, and they were absolutely humiliated, okay? Nothing about Britain's military might at the time changed. What did change is that everyone could suddenly see Britain could no longer act independently. The Suez did not cause the decline. It actually revealed it, okay? Let's watch this right now. I think this is a good little video to watch. Let's check this out. How the Suez Canal changed history.
This little choke point is called the Bab al-Mandeb, or Gate of Tears. It used to be nothing but a recipe for shipwrecks. It was known mostly for strong winds, unpredictable cross currents, and shallow reefs that made navigating it dangerous. And it wasn't very valuable because if you go through it, you just end up in the Red Sea, which was a dead end for most of history. That is until a French company miraculously cut a canal through this part of Egypt and changed the world forever, nearly halving the time that it would take for Europeans to get to Asia, where they were all racing each other to conquer, colonize, and bring back unfathomable wealth to their countries. The Suez Canal was a massive upgrade to this hunt for resources. So now you have a new front in this race. A scramble for control over this new route to Asia. This windy little choke point was no longer just the Gate of Tears. It was an important bit of water, one of the most important on Earth, at least for the empires. They had to keep an eye on it. So the British take this little island right at the choke point. They put a lighthouse on it. They also take control of a port just south of the choke point. The Italians then show up and purchase this bit of coastline from local sultans.
Okay, guys, so we're looking at why is the Suez Canal so important? Why is the Bab al-Mandeb Strait so important? Okay, and we're going to go in a little more specifically about the Suez Canal story here in a second. Bear with me for the next 2 minutes. Let's check this out, okay?
Eventually taking over this whole stretch of coast called Eritrea. And the French would start fixating on this strip of sparsely populated coast right on the banks of the choke point, the land that would become Djibouti. The sultans here told the French that yes, they could have a bit of this newly strategic land in exchange for protection. The locals here knew what was going on. The great empires were all scrambling and racing, and they were going to use their prime real estate to get what they wanted, to leverage the situation. Smart. So the French set up their colony. They call it Côte Française des Somalie, or French Somaliland. This choke point would become a key base for projecting power and refueling on their way to carve up and plunder Asia. France would hold on to their little colonial invention for a long time. Even as the world would decolonize after World War II, France held on to this strategic colony along the choke point. Until eventually, the locals rose up, there were protests, they clashed with the local authorities, and it led to an independence vote. And in 1977, Djibouti became a new country.
All right, so check that out about the Suez Canal in Djibouti and this Bab al-Mandab Strait. Let's check this one out right here. It's a good little bit as
Did you
well.
know that Israel attacked Egypt in October 1956 and seized control of the Suez Canal? Before 1956, the Suez Canal was ruled by Britain and France, and the toll tax of every ship enriched their empires. This man-made wonder is important because before it, ships had to circle the whole of Africa to reach Europe. But in 1956, Egypt nationalized the Suez Canal.
This is when I said Nasser, okay? Egypt's president Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal and took it over. Okay, and then listen to this because you're going to see that this is going to sound familiar. Israel said, hey, we got a plan to go to war and we're going to attack Egypt and we're going to liberate, we're going to be the ground force to liberate the Suez Canal from Egypt. And Britain and France, you're going to be our best friends and help us out. You're going to provide the air cover. Does this sound familiar? Does this sound like it's been a existential forever playbook for Israel? It does. Okay, it's eye-opening.
Britain and France erupted in anger. Their factories depended on Middle Eastern oil, their empires thrived on toll taxes, and they were determined not to surrender the world's most vital waterway to Egypt. Then Britain, France, and Israel hatched a secret plan. Israel would strike first as the frontline attacker, followed by large-scale air operations from Britain.
I mean, does this sound familiar, guys? Put a 1 in the chat if this sounds pretty damn familiar. If this sounds like the playbook, you know, put a 1 in the chat if you're tracking what I'm saying here, okay? All right, let's keep going.
Britain and France, and their plan initially succeeded to control the Suez Canal. The role of the UN and the superpowers was remarkable. The Soviets openly backed Egypt with nuclear threats, while the USA, unwilling to risk its position in the Middle East, warned Britain and France with strict sanctions.
Oh, wait a second. We were the ones warning them back then. It was strict. We were warning sanctions. We wouldn't support the British rescue with the sterling, okay? That's basically their currency, okay? We wouldn't help them, a bailout. And we warned them with sanctions to stop. Crazy.
Under this combined pressure, the invasion collapsed within weeks and Egypt regained the canal. If you are interested in making stunning map animation videos like these, join our map animation course today.
Okay, that's a pretty cool map animation, I'm not gonna lie to you. But this is the thing, right? I mean, I'm gonna leave this one up here because this is pretty cool. 1 second. We're gonna leave up the, I like this little invasion graphic. It's a pretty good one. But this is the thing. So we, as the U.S., went against Britain. And we helped them have their Suez moment. And are we having our Suez moment now? Guys, put a 1 in the chat if you think this is the U.S. Suez moment. Tell me what you think. I'll tell you what I think in a minute here. I'm going to keep going. I might surprise you. Give me a 1 in the chat if you think this could be the U.S.'s Suez moment. Okay? And the Suez moment, what this is that it's the time that ended the great power era for the UK. Okay? It was the announcement, not the time, not what actually ended it. It was actually the moment, the watershed moment where the world realized the UK was no longer the great power it once was. Okay? It was no longer the hegemonic power. Okay? Now, I think we'd seen that coming through World War II for a while. Germany beat the crap out of them, right? Make no mistake. They got pounded. There's so many different events that happened to them, not to mention the strategic bombing from Germany. But I want to see what you guys think, okay? Give me a 1 in the chat if you think this is it, okay? I see Propaganda says no. Crusader says yes. Keith says yes. Okay, don't tell me until I see more. Okay, got it, Freedom, okay? Okay. Okay, let's check it out. Let's listen. You're very wise. You guys, we have a very, very smart crew here. Very wise. Listen some more, okay? But at first glance, you think, wow, maybe, right? Maybe, okay? But let's talk about what it is and what it isn't, all right? So what actually happened to Britain afterwards? 3 months later, their prime minister resigned, okay? 1 year later, within 12 months, Britain formally redefined itself as a country that could no longer afford to project conventional power. Now, I want you to remember, only 15 years before this, they were embroiled in World War II. 12 years, 10 years, 13 years before. 14 years before, they were getting crushed by Nazi Germany, okay? A couple of years of being destroyed, your industrial base destroyed, probably did more than anything else, okay? Let's be honest. And then having far-flung empire and colonies and all those things. However, again, we're not talking about what did it, that we're on similar trajectories. What we are talking about is that there's a moment where people realize, okay? So let's talk about the winds of change in 1960. Ghana, 57, Nigeria, 60, Kenya, 63. 24 territories that were formerly British territories became independent inside a decade. Dean Acheson at West Point, the former National Security Advisor, okay, when he was at West Point, gave a speech. He said Britain had lost an empire and not yet found a role. That was in 1962, okay? In 1967, the sterling was devalued, the British currency devalued, okay? And then finally, overall, the Allies, Charles de Gaulle concluded France could never again depend on an ally, okay? France and Britain went together. The U.S., basically turned on them and said, no, it's not in our interest. I say turned on them, not to make it like it's so bad, but it wasn't in the U.S. interest for them to go to war with Egypt and to destabilize the region. Okay, and so the U.S. went against the U.K., Britain, France, and Israel, all right? So the case that's happening to us right now, let me see what we got in the chat. What do we think in the chat? Okay, fair enough. SRB Valkyrie says yes. All right, leaning towards yes, Lisa Jones, okay. Let's see. All right, guys, I'm seeing the chat here. Check it out. So what's happening to us, to the United States? The nation in July, two-war grand strategy has maybe possibly been shredded. It might be being shredded right now. Or it's not as psychologically fearsome as it was before. Like I said, the hegemonic psychology. When push came to shove, the U.S. could not open the Strait of Hormuz through physical force. We didn't do it. We haven't done it. Okay? I hate to even say that as an American. I hate to say that as a Marine Corps officer. But this is where we're at. All right? The parallel is difficulty of translating power into sustainable political influence. And, and also keeping legitimacy. All right? Iran struck all 6 GCC capitals, while those stated capitals hosted American power, American bases, and we couldn't stop it. We couldn't protect them. Iran destabilized the region by showing you're vulnerable, okay? The protection psychology, the illusion of protection, the bargain, the protection bargain, why they made their deals with us. It was broken, visibly, shattered, okay? In March, NATO members and China both refused to help open the Strait of Hormuz. Remember how pathetic this was? I'm just going to say it was pathetic, okay? And again, not a political channel, it's a leadership channel. And we were talking about strategic analysis, leadership analysis of the most famous case study as a business case study, decision-making case study, and strategy case study, okay? That's what we're doing right now. But it was a pathetic moment when we were asking even China to come help out. Any allies want to come help out. President Trump rebuked NATO, then Japan, then South Korea, and Australia. Australia? What? and said that U.S. does not need the help of anyone. We're going to go it alone and we're going to bomb the crap out of everybody. Okay? You guys remember that? You remember that one? All right. So, not so good. Not so good. Not such a good thing, right? And I'm going to switch this up because I like seeing tanks real quick. I want to see some tanks. Here we go. Hold on. I'm going to play this real quick.
Followed by large-scale air operations.
Ooh, air operations. Okay, I'm going to switch it, guys. I know I'm having a total shiny object moment. Okay, this is a better background. All right. So, we don't need the help of anybody, we said. Okay? A choke point we have policed since 1945 now generates revenue for our rival, our enemy, our rival's currency. Crazy, sad, yes, but true. Okay, like the Metallica song, sad but true. So where does this Suez moment for the United States break in our favor? Here we go. Britain in 1956, a huge difference, okay? In 1956, Britain was a debtor country in a currency crisis. We have a huge national debt, but we're not in a currency crisis yet. And also, Britain was dependent on a foreign power, okay? The United States. Eisenhower could break the pound. Eisenhower could have helped. But there's no Eisenhower right now for the dollar. We're not reliant on anybody. Nobody can force the United States to stop. This is the difference. There's no one. You remember when they asked Trump, they said, have you learned the limits of power yet? Learned the limits of your office, the presidency's power? He said, no, I have not learned that yet. He said, I know there are limits to it, but I have not learned it yet. Okay? That's because economically, no one can force the United States to stop. Huge difference. Okay? Every pause in this war has been of the own choice of the United States, has been of our own choice. Okay? That's a huge difference. The Suez was reversal. It was reversed and imposed by an ally. The United States imposed that reversal on the UK, on France, all right? And then there's this. The Dow closed at 53,178 on the 3rd of August. Britain was completely broke. The United States is not, okay? These are facts, all right? And it's a big distinction to understand. But where it breaks against us, the successor problem. Britain had a successor. It was us, the United States, okay? It handed the Gulf to an ally, the United States, with shared language, shared laws, shared institutions going all the way back for centuries. The UK's decline was inevitable. It was an inevitable decline, okay? But the decline for the UK was survivable for the world because the baton they passed was to a friend. You have to understand, it wasn't contentious. It was like, all right, well, you guys are going to do it. Okay, you guys take it. We're beat. We're tired. Okay, we built this whole thing up. You guys protect it now. All right, SRP Valkyrie, thank you very much, man. We're going to give a quick round of applause for SRP Valkyrie. Do things like we do it. And guys, at some point, if we start getting a ton of super chats, I will do them at the end as we do on Valhalla with Nate. But for right now, we can celebrate as we do. Big round of applause for SRP Valkyrie. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you being a friend of the Ben Pappas channel. Very motivating. It's inspiring. I appreciate it. Always appreciate it. Big round of applause there. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Now, let us read what you've written here. I said this in the chat, but it's refreshing to be a part of a respectful community. I appreciate how you give us the facts without sensationalizing. Glad to support this channel. Shout out to everyone here. Thank you so much, SRP Valkyrie. I really appreciate it, man. It means a lot. I do my best. Honestly, I do my best to call it like I see it, to give you guys value. You guys make the decisions. You call the balls and strikes. I'm giving you my best analysis because I think that's the best way for us to learn lessons for our own lives from all this stuff going on. Because what are we going to do? The best thing you can hope for is to learn something from all this that will make a better situation for you, your life, your career, your family, decisions you make. You can take these grand case studies and say, you know what? I remember Ben was talking about this when we looked at the decisions for the Iran war. And right now I'm about to purchase this home. I'm about to build this business. I'm about to send this email at work. What are my assumptions going in? And do I have the resources to support it? What are the second and third order effects of all this? Okay, so thank you so much. It means a lot. I appreciate it. All right, guys, let's keep on rolling. That means a lot. It's very inspiring. When you guys support like that, I appreciate it. And all you guys being here is very inspiring. So I appreciate that too. Thank you. Okay, so this is the thing, right? Nobody can force America to stop. Every pause in this war has been of our own choice. Britain was broke, we are not. And again, but the thing is this, that Britain chose its successor. It was the United States. They are passing the baton. When Britain said, okay, we'll pull out of there, we're not going to attack Egypt anymore, the United States was like, hey, look, we got it. You know, why don't you go home, lick your wounds, heal your country. The UK was devastated after World War II. Okay? You know, Dunkirk. Anybody seen the movie Dunkirk? It was like, you know, a ton of British troops. I don't even know the numbers anymore, but I want to say massive, thousands and thousands killed. Like they were really devastated by the Germans, okay? The bombing in London, all these things. We said, go home, lick your wounds. We got it, okay? But I want to tell you this. This is the big difference in why this works against us. America has no successor. Think about this, okay? So this might be a Suez moment, but it's not the Suez moment that you might be thinking of, okay? It's not a Suez moment like, oh, America's in decline. It's a different kind of Suez moment. Maybe a realization that America has no successor, okay? There's no one that's going to be like our little brother or someone we built up that's going to take the reins. Because here's the thing. Either China takes it, not an ally, and you know, China goes and is currently collecting tolls in its own currency on the waterway in question in the Strait of Hormuz, or nobody does. Or Russia beefs up and is a resurgent Russia and overly aggressive and drives on down through Iran and establishes its own beachhead. And what's anybody going to do about it, right? If they're like, all right, we're going to hold what we got in Ukraine, we're going down to Iran, we're running the show down here. A la Nazi Germany and Italy, okay? Seizing Italy. Italy, you don't want to fight anymore? Watch this. We're taking control. Who's to say this can't happen? Now, I'm talking fantastical stuff. Any intel analyst would be like, yeah, no, they're not going to do that. We have no reason to believe they're going to do that. I know that, but I'm a creative thinker. I'm a creative problem solver. And I think of these black swan scenarios, these things that you think can't happen, but could happen. And what would that mean if we're not seeing it right? Okay. I'm just saying the U.S. has no successor. The only ones that have power like us are not our friends, okay? I think China could be a decent partner in the world if we recognize who they are, we call them out on their crap, like Admiral Studeman said last week. We get them to behave the rules and mechanisms of the international order and agreements with the United States. But right now, we're stuck dealing with Iran. We have no successor, okay? So there's no one like the United States, like we were for the Great Britain. There's no one like that for the United States right now, okay? So the interwar catastrophe happened in the gap between hegemons. Remember this, okay? Britain could no longer lead, okay? America would not yet lead. Then the Suez Canal moment happened. The Suez moment happened. And having nobody is the worst outcome. That's why Britain and France pulled back. They were both devastated from the war. They pulled back and were like, U.S., you take it. Then you take it. You're our ally, you're our friend, but at the end of the day, Charles de Gaulle pulled out and said you can never count on an ally, okay? And that's why I believe also why France pulled out of NATO command too at the time, okay? Back then. Britain's decline was managed. Cross-party consensus was the position was unaffordable, okay? They had a managed decline because they were smoked from the war. The United States decline would be unmanaged because denial of decline is a partisan position here, okay? You have, make America great again. We're now ascendant again because a certain political party took over. Others say we're not. Both parties say, we have the answers for you. We're going to talk about that in a minute, the consequences of what the answers are. Because make no mistake, the greatest adjustment that happens from a foreign policy disaster, and make no mistake, this is on the verge of being a foreign policy disaster, okay, is internal. Internal changes happen. Big swings internally, politically, socially, culturally, like Vietnam War. Massive upheavals occur when there's a foreign policy disaster and everything that happens back home. I think President Trump is trying to avoid this now. I think he didn't think much in the beginning of it, okay? I think now he's trying to make sure he doesn't pull us into a Vietnam. And despite what I'm saying, that in order to get the job done, the job we're saying we need to do, we need to do some ground ops, some big ground ops, okay? Such as establishing a foothold, building up an insurgent force, special forces campaign, and doing strikes and raids, and probably going in on the ground to seize the enriched uranium. So that's what I want to say is that, the biggest toll is yet to come, and that's going to come through internal upheaval. But if we get into another Vietnam or another Operation Iraqi Freedom, Iraq type situation, you're going to see more and more impact at home domestically. That's where it is. It reflects back home. Make no mistake, and remember this, in Iraq, when I was there, and probably some of you too, we were losing up to 100 service people per day, 100 servicemen and women per day killed in Iraq. Okay? Not per day, I'm sorry. Wrong quote. 100 per month. We're losing up to 100 killed per month. I'll say it again. 100 killed per month. Compared to what Russia's doing right now, it's low. Russia's losing 5,000 KIA per week. Okay? If I'm saying that right, it's like 20,000 a month. It's insane. That's where they're at right now. Latest quoted figures. But I want to tell you, for the United States way of war, smart warfare, we have the golden hour with our aircraft for medevac. We wear ballistic plates. We have top-notch equipment. We have armor, precision weapons. Losing 100 a month tells you how savage some of the fighting was and how deadly some of the weaponry was over there. And by the way, this was sponsored by Iran. Okay, a lot of the IEDs and a lot of the deaths that we suffered at the time, Al Qaeda in Iraq and also Iran supported proxies. Okay, so make no mistake of that. But my point being that this would cause a not as bad as Vietnam effect, but it would cause a massive effect again, culturally, socially, at home. Keep that in mind. We'll get back to that in a minute, okay? Here's the thing. Britain's debt from a war it won, and it could pay down, okay? Britain's debt was from a war that it won in World War II, and it could pay it down, okay? But it took a while. But they had to step back from being the hegemon. Ours is structural and peacetime, okay? I want you to understand that in 1957, Sputnik happened. 12 years later, the moon, okay? 1975, Saigon plus stagflation. 14 years later, the wall, okay? The wall fell. So think about this, okay? There's an event, like a Suez moment. There's an event plus economic event, and then a major catastrophe, a major thing happens, okay? 1979 to 1989, Japan was number one, right? Then Japan's 30 years declining, okay? So there's a lot of stuff. In 1987, there was the warning of overstretch for the USSR. 4 years later, the USSR dissolved, okay? They were dissolved. So we may not see, this is the point, okay? Declinists may have been wrong at the moment, calling for a Suez moment, okay? But Britain's declinists were also wrong at the immediate moment they're saying they're declining. But then all of a sudden, something will happen a few years later, and you see that actually they're right. This is something we seriously have to consider right now, because if people are calling this a Suez moment for the United States, it doesn't mean right at this moment. It could mean 10 years from now, 5 years from now. We see some serious upheavals and problems where we have to step back more and more, okay? And I tell you that as strategists, as leaders, as observers, as analysts, okay? And you make your own decisions from it, okay? The thing is this. The decline arrives long after it's first predicted, okay? And it arrives after a series of ordinary decisions, not a dramatic event. So the dramatic events usually took place before, okay? So what do? Do allies hedge or recommit? Okay? What do? Does the UK or France build their own Hormuz mine clearance coalition? All right, what do? They said they were going to do that once the war is over. Are they? Saudi Arabia is also proposing its own naval coalition. What about when allies are seeking their own nuclear capability? Okay, are they doing that now? Yes. Why? Because they're pricing your security guarantee at 0. That's why, okay? There's some stuff moving right now, everybody. Note that the U.S.-Saudi agreement for nuclear energy, okay, it's on the scorecard and we've signed it already. It's going into play. It's going to happen. Now, this won't become a weapons program, but they're going to become a nuclear energy power, right? With U.S. technology, which allows us to have some kind of control. Okay? There's a lot of stuff to consider right now. Here's another thing, the budget. Does the U.S. defense budget grow or get cut after this war? All right? Britain answered in 1957 and said, we are no longer capable of doing all this stuff. We need to cut the defense budget, boost up domestic spending. That's the whole story, okay? Within a year, Britain had announced it is no longer this power projection, conventional power projection power. The United States, I think, is a long way off from that, but it might just be not this year or next year. It might be the next administration or 2 administrations from now, okay? And again, it's not a definite thing, but these things can happen. They would say the fall of Rome occurred from extended wars, nonstop war, the Visigoths and Goths invading the northern border, too many campaigns, too many raising of armies, too much spending on taxes on war, too much expenditure of blood and treasure, strategic exhaustion, all these things, okay? Again, apply this to your life. If you overextend, you could collapse like the Soviet Union, like a comment I just made a minute ago, okay? Look at your business, look at your life. Are you always on the attack and not consolidating? Okay? Are your supply lines stretched too thin where you're vulnerable to attack? Okay? Have you not consolidated your position and dug in and improved your fighting position? Okay? All these things. One of the things Nazi Germany did that was a big mistake is they did not consolidate their gains. They kept attacking. I'm going to tell you right now, if the Germans would have consolidated their wins over most of Europe, continental Europe, that whole area would still be speaking German, okay? But because they went on and turned on the Soviet Union and went after them, that was their demise, strategic overreach, okay? There's a lot to consider right here. History can be a great educator. And history, it doesn't, like they say, history rhymes, right? It doesn't always, reveal exactly what's going to happen, but it will rhyme. There are often a lot of lessons you can pull from it that you can apply today. Because we are still human beings, the nature of warfare has not changed. Okay, the method has, but the nature of it hasn't changed. All right? So let me say what my verdict is here. My verdict is this. Is this an American Suez moment? Is America in decline? No. I would say not yet and maybe not ever, okay, in the foreseeable future. Because the mechanism that killed Britain does not exist for us, all right? Nobody can force America to stop, as I said earlier. Every pause has been our own choice. And this is exactly why it matters. It matters more, not less. Britain's decline was imposed, okay? They were already destroyed for many years of war. This would be like if World War III happened, we won World War III, and then 10 years later, our new best friend, Canada, the world superpower, was like, look, stop, don't attack, we got it. Why don't you guys take care of home? And we're like, okay, Canada, go ahead, okay? The winds of change shrunk Britain, okay? When all the 10 territories left within the space of 2 years or 3 years, every one was a decision made by serious people, the shrinking of the British Empire. They made these decisions, okay, and agreed to them, each individually defensible, all right? Britain did not become smaller because it lost the Suez. Britain became smaller because after the Suez, it decided it was smaller. It put it out in policy, in its strategy. It said, we're no longer the country that does this. The British Empire is done. Okay, then it built a budget, a foreign policy, and a national story around that decision. It became strategic culture, okay? And it got exactly what it had defined. That's what it did. Remember this, hegemony, okay, meaning the global superpower, the world leader, the hegemon. Okay, this premium of being the hegemon is worth more than several carrier strike groups. Being the world hegemon is worth a lot. And right now, guys, we are playing with it. We're dangling around playing with it. Oh, we struck Venezuela, look what we can do. Now we're going to take Greenland. Now we're over here in Iran, we're going to do this. And all of a sudden we're like, oh, wait a second. It doesn't work like I thought it would work. Okay, a little bit of surprise. And I think that's why we're seeing the restraint from President Trump, where he's like, I'm not going ground forces. I'm not doing this. I'm going to bomb him a little bit. I'm going to try to pull back. Okay, because he realizes global hegemony, world hegemony, the world hegemon, the world superpower is at stake. It is worth more than several carrier strike groups because it doesn't cost anything to maintain except decision-making and the way you behave in the international order. All right. It costs nothing to maintain until, and this is a big until it's tested and you're found to be smaller and weaker than advertised. Look, we saw the same thing. Think about this. There was a time that everybody thought, for example, Conor McGregor could never be beaten, right? And then he got beaten a couple times, and it turns out, okay, he's not unbeatable. Anderson Silva, another MMA fighter, everyone thought, unbeatable. He got beaten. And then everybody realized he could be beaten. Mike Tyson, undefeated, ferocious, amazing. And then he got beaten by Buster Douglas, who had some big gun. He was also tried to be a Marine, Buster Douglas. That might have helped him. That's what did it. But knocked him out. Okay, and everybody can make excuses. Oh, Tyson went to prison, Tyson this, Tyson that. It's true. Yes, it's true. But I want to say Tyson at 21 is not the same as Tyson at 28. Tyson at 28 is not the same as Tyson at 38, right? And so if you get exhausted by taking a beating and going to battle, expending blood and treasure, endless wars in strategic overreach, you might lose the position of being the strategic hegemon. You need to heed this as a leader. If you keep on trying these Google X type moonshots and you're expending very valuable revenue as a leader and you're not replenishing it with cash flow, you're overextended. You've got so many debts coming to be paid. You might collapse as a business. Elon Musk almost collapsed SpaceX. If they didn't have that last successful launch, he would have been done, and they would have also come to collect on Tesla. Okay, he tells this story. I covered it in one of my lives about 8 months ago. Okay, strategic overreach. It matters. Okay, if ours comes, okay, will it be chosen? Britain lost its position. We would be putting ours down. Okay, Britain lost its position by choice. Okay. Britain's decline was imposed, but they handed it off. They handed it off to a strategic successor, us. If we lose our position as the hegemon, okay, will it be chosen? All right, I don't know. Or will it be imposed on us? This is a very important thing to consider, all right? But maintaining hegemonic power is very important. 159 days is a very long test to see if we are as strong as we say we are, okay? But the premium of the hegemonic power, the most important thing about it is not the position. You can lose the capacity, okay? But what you can't survive is deciding you no longer have the capacity. This is where quitting comes in, right? You as a leader, when you decide you're actually done and you quit, you might not be, but you've decided. And for the United States, if the people decide, we're done. We're never doing this again. We're going to elect leaders who never do it again. President Trump came to power saying no more wars. And, we got a war. Okay? I think that's why he's trying to make sure we don't do a ground war. But I think it's either we walk away, we lose prestige, and we take a serious chink in our armor to the hegemonic power, the way people view us, or we go all in and we prove it. Okay? It's tough stuff. Tough stuff. And again, like I always tell you guys, I know many things. I don't know everything. There might be some other option out there that I don't know about that's going to make it all work out, and I hope so. Okay, I hope I'm wrong. But, this is what I know. And been doing this stuff for a little while. So, okay. All right. I want to stop for a minute because I know exactly who is watching this part. Somebody just heard me say Britain became smaller because it decided it was smaller, and you did not think about Britain, okay? You thought about yourself. When I talked about quitting, the only way to be out is if you quit. The only way you lose true power and capacity is when you decide you no longer have the capacity and the power to do it, okay? You've been making reasonable decisions, smart decisions, and somewhere in the last 2 years, you quietly stopped, okay? You stop believing you were the person who could do the next big thing. All right? I've been there. I know what you're saying, okay? Nobody voted for that, right? You made many careful calls in a row and woke up smaller in life. Stuff happens, okay? We take some L's, we take some face shots, we get knocked down. But I want to tell you, it's all fixable. This is the entire reason I've built my communities, I've built my coaching programs, okay? It's the entire reason this community right now, all of you exist, why we're all here, okay? My Ferocious Optimist coaching program is where you get the spark back. Whether you're in my monthly group coaching program, the Ferocious Optimist, or you join the inner circle, okay? The fog's gonna lift, the confidence is gonna come back, the clarity is gonna come back, and you're gonna get after it. And you're gonna lead like yourself again, okay? With a careful, well thought out vision, you're gonna have great strategy, and instead of being this cautious, afraid person, you're gonna go forward with confidence and self-trust, all right? The link is inside the description of the video. Click on that. I would love to see you join. If you join today in the Inner Circle, we're going live tomorrow with our Inner Circle session, okay? Tomorrow, Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, just like this time here for our live stream. I'd love to see you in the Inner Circle. That is our weekly Inner Circle, weekly mastermind that I lead with some amazing, awesome rising leaders in there, okay? And then the next time we're going to do the Ferocious Optimist Saturday group coaching will be our live group coaching session will be not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, okay? I look forward to seeing you there as well, too. And as always, if you're ready to work with me one-on-one, you want to become a better leader, you want to make a breakthrough in your life, you want me to work with you specifically week after week, one-on-one, designing your own personal strategy and holding you accountable to get things, to make things happen, go ahead and book a no-fee strategy and discovery call with me. The link is inside the description for that as well, too. You answer a few questions, you're in, we'll get together, and we'll see if it's a good fit, and I'll see if we're a good fit together, and you can make a decision if you're ready to commit for that strategic advisory that I have, one-on-one, okay? All right, let's talk about this, okay, guys? I'm going to give you something very important right now. We're going to talk about affordability at home, okay? Before I do that, we're going to wake up the chat real quick. I want to see how everybody's doing. All right, let's see here. All right, everybody, you still motivated in the chat? We're going to fire this up real quick and get our music cranking. Wake everybody up real quick. Get something to drink. Get your favorite beverage, some water, whatever you have. Get ready to rock and roll. Go! All right. Move! Bass! All right, pump it up. I'm pulling up a little document here. DJ Benny Ben in the house. Ready to do it. All right, everybody. Good. I hope you got a little, you're awake, you're ready to go. If you guys are fired up and you're ready to rock and roll, go ahead and give me a 1 in the chat. If you're fired up and you're ready to rock and roll, give me a 1 in the chat. All right, we'll see you, Jasmine. Okay. Give me a 1 in the chat if you are fired up and ready to go. Party, party, woo. All right, Jasmine, hope you're doing well. Everything's good. Hey, SRP, awesome. Crusader's ready. SRP is ready. Freedom's ready. Everyone's ready to rock and roll. Yeah, if you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We definitely play some music here, especially on Fridays, Mondays. Today's a little more serious, but we definitely do it to keep everyone awake, keep them going. We got a little more to talk about here to cover, okay? And I want to talk about this right now because it's very, very important. Affordability at home, okay? I want to say that strategy is an abstraction. No one knows what the hell's strategy, but it's an abstraction until it shows up on your corner. Then it's on your kitchen table, okay? Crude oil, $67 a barrel the day before the war. Brent crude oil was above $100 a barrel multiple times, okay? This is real talk, right? In July, it closed up 24%. Its strongest month since March, okay? Gas crossed $4 average cost in late March, the highest in 4 years. In May, the average was $4.48. In July, it was $4.05, right? It's going up 30%. It's up 30% from a year ago. In California, where I live in California, it's almost $6 a gallon, Okay. Mid fives, $6. Gas is a very big concern for 78% of voters. This is where strategy hits home. And I'm going to talk some more about this too, okay? Fox poll in March, 61% disapproved of the president on the economy. So what are the outcomes and the results of bad strategy? Guys, of bad leadership, bad strategy, okay? And I won't even say bad leadership. Let me not say it that way. So let's say a poor strategy, decision making that impacts the bottom line, okay? Because sometimes if I'm saying bad leadership, you can think, there's a political thing, things like that. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say, though, is that results, right? You're getting results that are hurting people. Now, the Dow is up, the economy's up in that way. That's a good thing. I'm not mad to see, the Dow Jones up, the S&P up. That's a good thing. But gas is something that's a very big concern for 78% of voters. Fox poll in March, 61% disapprove of the president of the economy. Okay? This is what I want to say. You can't hide gas prices. This is what many political strategists say. It'll weave back into the affordability issue. It makes everything very difficult when the gas prices are up. Okay? Strait of Hormuz normally carries 20 million barrels a day. There's no reserve that replaces that. All right? The war is never going to be paid for by the Pentagon. It was always going to be paid at the pump. Okay? The grocery aisle, and every freight invoice in America. Wars are financed by the people who didn't vote on them and didn't start them. Okay, that's all of you. That's you. That's me. It's all of us. All right. So here's the thing. Every strategic decision is paid for by someone who wasn't in the room. Reorganizations are paid for by the middle managers. Growth targets are paid for by sales floor, right? Costs are cut by customers 18 months later. All right. Cost cuts by customers 18 months later. They have to pay more. The customers pay more, right? You say you're going to get a tax break, or you're going to pay more later. Cost cuts for in a grocery store or in a business. Customer shows up, they're paying for it a year later, 18 months later. Okay? So I want you to know that. So what does this mean? It means that you're going to have to answer to your allies, your partners, and you're going to have to answer to home. Okay? And this is very, very important. So what are the political aftershocks in the world that comes next? Okay? The war will end. The realignment it triggered might not. Okay? So, the fracture on the right. Let me talk about this briefly because I think this is very, very important. Okay? And here it is. The fracture on the right. Carlson, Kelly, and Owens, people opposed the war from the opening days, okay, in the name of America First, right? You've heard of America First. There were some who were calling for the removal under the 25th Amendment, right? The removal of the president, okay? Like people like Marjorie Taylor Greene saying foreign wars and regime change put America last, all right? She floated a true America-focused party with Pierce Morgan in June, okay? Hey, awesome. I appreciate it, Jasmine. Thank you, Jasmine. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Do a quick round of applause for Jasmine. You know that's a tradition. That's what we got to do. Thank you, Jasmine. Appreciate the support. Great having you here. Thanks for being a mod, too. All right, we're rolling. So guys, this is it, right? The realignment politically that this triggers won't end. Remember I told you before, foreign policy problems and disasters come to reflect on home, cause social upheaval, cultural upheaval, domestic upheaval, okay, change, all right? Okay, there's going to be a third party, Carlson said, okay? And I'm going to do everything I can to bring this about. That's what he said, okay? Through polling through spring showed that the war retained strong support among self-identified MAGA voters, believe it or not, okay? Through the spring. Al Jazeera also said, though, disquiet is not a rupture. So we don't know if it's all the way over yet. But this coalition between the America First and MAGA and all that stuff like that now holds two incompatible foreign policy views, okay? We're going to see what happens in 2028. Okay, some are America First, some are still in MAGA, some are separating. You're seeing this. I'm politically independent. I'm just calling what I see. And then we have something else that's happening, okay? Not just MAGA and America First, you're seeing there's just a fissure. They split apart. A whole new party's being formed. Okay? And the direction of travel right now is towards restraint. A generation of young conservatives are watching this war. And just when they were promised that no war would happen, they're watching a war run for 159 days. Okay? And it's adding to their gas bill and raising the cost of affordability, cost of living. Now let's check out what's going on the left now. Remember I told you, foreign policy disasters, foreign policy problems, unpopular wars usually end up in political, domestic upheaval, domestic change, social change, societal change at home. So on the left, okay, Mandami, right now, you see the popularity that he's been getting. He's been getting a lot of backlash as well too, but more and more people are being attracted to this, to new leaders, new people out there. Okay, I don't know how much this is going to go because he's making some mistakes as well too. What I see in his affordability in order to run New York City, but you're seeing that 3 progressive candidates against incumbent Democrats in House primaries, right? You're seeing that Mandami and people like Mandami are possibly showing they can be elected more and more anywhere in the country, okay? For almost any position. That's an ABC. ABC News said that in the end of June, saying that this is showing an upswing for these people, right? So remember this, a war raises energy prices. Energy prices raise everything else. And whoever owns the affordability message inherits the country. They get to take over. People want to listen to them, okay? That's not a takeover of a certain party. It's just redistributive politics. It's what people want. And whoever has the right messaging for that and whoever has the trust becomes viable because the middle's getting squeezed, okay? So I'm just saying, something's going to shake up. And there might just be where people don't trust either party. America First breaks into its own thing or something else comes out, right? Total political independence, okay? Foreign policy failure is the most reliable engine of domestic realignment and change in history. It's just how it is, okay? For example, Suez ended the Eden government for 4 months, okay, in Britain, the Suez Canal. Prime Minister Eden had to resign in 4 months from that. Vietnam gave us Nixon, okay? The whole Nixon thing. Iraq gave us Obama. And in a longer arc, right, gave us Trump, okay? So Iraq gave us Obama. Obama gave us Trump. The war right now is upstream of the things people are afraid of, okay? Again, it's not a political channel. I'm not going to go into the pros and cons of everybody on here, but I'm just showing you the trends that the foreign policy failures, the wars are upstream of the change, okay? And that's what you can expect that's going to happen, all right? So the world that comes next, China. Let's talk about China for a minute, okay? The United States and Israel fought Iran and China won. So China gets to win someone else's war. This is what Foreign Affairs is saying, okay? China stockpiles 1.4 billion barrels, dwarf a depleted U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, okay? 6 months of Hormuz disruption is all covered by China, okay? One of you mentioned that in the chat before. I saw that. The war ties down our carriers, okay? It ties down our munitions, our intelligence, relieving pressure near Taiwan. Again, I don't think they'll do anything until 2029 because they don't know just what they'll get out of this administration. And they are definitely trying not to have a direct confrontation with us, okay? Beijing is supplying Iran dual-use technology and targeting information. So is Russia, right? Plus, Beijing is getting an intel windfall on U.S. weapons and AI employment and how we fight, where our weaknesses are, what our vulnerabilities are. They're testing mechanisms, testing technology against us, okay? They are watching. Okay, China is now is going to be a medium-term loser, possibly. There's a possibility for that. Losing cheap Gulf oil will weaken it a little bit too, but in the long range, they gain a lot of strategic knowledge. Okay, make no mistake. There is a lot to think about here now, okay? So I want to also talk about Saudi Arabia flying joint strikes with the U.S. and Iraq, Turkey deploying to northern Cyprus, Qatar shooting down Iranian aircraft. Lots is moving. Lot is being redesigned, redrawn, Regional hegemons right now. Regional hegemons right now, they are actors, okay? Not clients right now. They are actually acting. Future regional hegemons, regional actors, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the GCC states, okay? The hegemon, the United States, is allowing them to act as well too. And make no mistake, they're influencing decisions we make. We are pulled in many different directions right now, okay? This is going to cause not just a redesigning at home, but abroad as well. As I said, many things right now are in flux and are being redesigned and you know, also being shaken up, okay? So I want you to always remember that there's more that happens from the war than just the war itself. There are second and third order effects. There are things that are going to happen downstream from the war. Right now, the war is upstream. Many changes will happen at home. Many changes will happen abroad from this, okay? If it continues, 159 days is not 359 days. It is not 10 years, okay? Like the 8 years like the Iraq war, or, you know, 15, 16 years like the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, like the global war on terror. It's not the same thing, but could it go that way? It's possible, all right? And look to see the changes that will happen at home as well too, all right? So there, we just spent about 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours on a war you're not fighting in, okay? And here's why you sat through it. Because you are actually in your own battle. You're running your own strategy. You have your own kind of war, whether it's your business, your career, your life. And it's the same type of decision making, the same type of analysis that you're going to need, okay? And the biggest thing is this. I want to say, remember that what determined who finishes, as I said before, if you decide you're done, you're done. If you decide you're out, you're out. But what determines who finishes is never about who's the fittest, who's the strongest. It's about who has the right identity, okay? For you individually, that should give you comfort. If you decide you're that person that's never going to quit, you're never going to quit, okay? And if you're willing to pay the price to uphold that identity and you attach so much significance to it, you're never going to quit. You're going to keep going. You're going to figure it out. The same is true of your adversary. The same is true of, in this case, the RGC. Their identity is that martyrdom culture, and also the stakes are higher where if they lose, they die, right? This should tell you a lot about all of this that we're talking about, okay? Identity, again, Iran will absorb 96% inflation because accepting an identity as a state that submits is not who they are. They won't do it, okay? Identity is the ceiling on what people will endure, okay? And it's the floor under what they accept. Mindset. We talked about 3 serious men, General Jack Keane, Rubio, President Trump, okay? A lot of similar facts, 3 different theories of victory there. You have to take a look at that. What is the mindset on that? Where is their focus? And for you, mindset, your focus, the direction of your thoughts will determine what your strategy is. It matters so much, okay? Let's talk about energy. Wars can be lost at the culmination point. Where are you at your culminating point each and every day as a leader? Do you hit your energy point where you can't go any further? You know what I mean? So you're at a point where you're in your own personal war. You're going. You're feeling depleted. You're feeling exhausted. You're running out of reserves. You're running out of fuel. You haven't slept. Next thing you know, you're making bad decisions. This is where you lose your personal wars, your personal battles, okay? Refit, rearm, resupply. You know, dig in for the night. Strengthen your position. Strengthen your fighting position, okay? All that stuff. Environment. You can't hold ground cheaply. You're going to have to get yourself surrounded with the right people. Some ground is so expensive, no matter how good you are, it's hard to hold, okay? Unless you have a team. Who is surrounding you? What are you listening to? What influences do you have? Who's on your team? Who's in your foxhole with you to fight, right? And then your purpose and mission. Okay, the moment that you lose sight of what your deeper driving purpose is and what your overall vision is, what your mission is, and what your deepest driving intentions are, you've lost the plot, okay? I think the moment that also bad intentions are revealed, it tells you a lot about a leader, right? When you realize, oh my God, that's not actually what they stand for. They stand for this other thing, okay? The moment your activity is driving your mission and your mission isn't driving your actions and your activity, you're going to have some real problems. Okay, so check in, make sure all of your daily tasks and actions are tied to your purpose, your mission, your vision. Okay, and your deepest driving intentions will give you optionality. So you keep doing things with the deeper reason why in mind. Okay, which is like commander's intent in the military, commander's intent in the Marine Corps. When we went on a mission, we always knew what the deeper commander's intent was. What was the end state? Yeah, you were attack to destroy enemy forces on hill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then they would say, it is my intent, as the commander, it's my intent that the hill no longer have any enemy on it, so that we can set up anti-air defenses there to support, we can support the coalition airstrike campaign in the larger province over to the north. Okay, so you mean if we put on a bunch of Sasquatch and Wookiee costumes and we rot the hill and scare them all away, does that work? Yeah, if they run so far they never come back, it worked. Okay, so or if all of a sudden a hurricane comes and wipes them off the hill and you go up there and the hill's clear, did it work? Yeah, okay. The deeper intent matters. Last, faith. Every framework I gave you tonight has a boundary where it stops predicting. Okay. What carries you past it's not a better model. Sometimes you have to know where the analysis ends, where you're just exhausted and faith begins. You got to say, I don't know, I'm giving it my best. I'm going to figure this out. Okay. I have faith that I'm on the right path for the right reasons, with the right intentions, the right purpose and mission for a mission larger than just myself. And my intentions are right for the right reasons. And I can't figure out this next thing in front of me, but I know that I will when I rest, when I resupply, when I refit, when I rearm, and I'll get it done. I'll figure it out. Decision making is hard. Leadership is hard. Complex, high stakes leadership, like the case study of Iran that we are studying right now, is very hard. It's not easy. Okay. But through faith and through applied discipline and through purpose and mission and energy and focus and mindset and identity, all these things, and stepping through fear, you will figure it out. You will do it. Okay. It's very, very important. All right. So remember, direct your mental focus on what you want, not what you don't want. Remember that. Okay. And so remember, ferocious optimism is not believing this all ends well. It's refusing to look away from how hard it is and taking action anyway. It's stepping through the fear, stepping through the discomfort, doing the hard things, stepping up when you don't want to. You don't negotiate with yourself anymore. It's not a mood. It's not a mood anymore. You step up and you do it. Leadership is tough. And again, hopefully through this stream, through Warrior Wednesday, where we analyze the case study of leadership, decision-making, and strategy, I'm not bashing on anyone that I've talked about in this stream, okay? You guys can do the bashing yourselves. And if my frank commentary and candor appears to be bashing, then so be it, okay? I'm just going to call it the way I see it and tell if I think it's good, it's not good, or the reasons the decisions were made with good intentions, bad intentions, flawed assumptions, whatever it was, okay? And you can decide from there who you believe in, how you're going to cast your vote, all right? But one last thing. Remember, Britain never got a warning. Nobody stood up in 1957 and said, in this year, you become a smaller country. This year, you're no longer a world superpower. It happened one reasonable decision at a time after World War II, okay? I gave them an excuse of just World War II, but there are many other reasons too, okay? And by the time anyone around could name it, it was history, all right? You're getting the warning. Maybe in your life right now, you're getting the warning, okay? That's the only advantage you have over them. If you see the warning in front of you saying to you, man, I see some indications and warning that I might need some help, that I might be slipping a little bit. Maybe I'm not doing things right. Maybe I'm not eating right. Maybe I'm not sleeping right. Maybe I don't know the decisions to make. Maybe I don't have a coach or a mentor. Maybe I don't have an accountability circle, a good support structure around me. Maybe I'm not gaining the skills I need, the new skills I need to be able to do this thing. Okay. Like I said on Monday, remember I was telling my story on Monday. I'm like, maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I didn't have the skills. Maybe I didn't know enough to get the mentor or expert to help me at the time for certain things, right? And that's okay too. But if you got this suspicion, you might want to investigate it and check it out. So if anything landed tonight, if you recognized yourself, okay, in the careful version, the smaller story, the fearful version, the reasonable retreat, you're pulling back just because you don't know if you can do it anymore, okay? Do not let this just be a video that you watch tonight, okay? My Ferocious Optimist Coaching membership and my Inner Circle are both where you get the spark back, the fog lifts, okay? The Inner Circle is my weekly mastermind every week on Thursday, okay? The Ferocious Optimist Coaching membership goes once a month on Saturday, all right? Group coaching session. Through both of them, either one you join, you're going to get direct access to me, direct messaging through me on our private, secure messaging platform, okay? My coaching membership coaching platform, okay? You're also going to be able to ask me questions directly on our private Zoom sessions, weekly with the Inner Circle, monthly in Ferocious Optimist. And what you present to me there, guess what? We're going to get to work on one-on-one every day. I just had one of my Inner Circle members message me this morning, gave me big, long message, several messages about things going on in their life. I took the time immediately, responded back to them, very thorough, very good answers, if I do say so myself. Great strategy, and I believe it's going to help them a lot, okay? And you can do that every damn day, okay? I'm going to be in your corner as your strategic advisor. It's a fantastic program. I used to never do stuff like this. It was always only one-on-one strategic advisory, which is a significant investment, I will say. And if you're ready for one-on-one, my strategic advisory, personal coaching, you can book a no-fee discovery call with me. The link is in the description, and we will talk about it and see if it's a good fit for you, okay? But otherwise, I built my Ferocious Optimist coaching membership by demand. People demanding, Ben, when are you going to do a coaching membership, a group coaching membership, so we can access it, so we can get to work with you without doing the one-on-one investment, okay? And then people wanted to do weekly, and so I built another Inner Circle membership, so I can talk to you every week, and you're going to have a cool little support circle. The Inner Circle is awesome, okay? And the monthly group coaching membership is awesome. It's like a little reunion, a little community every week, and you can chat in the community as well too. We have a community board, community challenges, all this stuff. It's freaking awesome. You're gonna love it, okay? If I do say so myself, because every week we get together on Thursday. I can't wait. It's so much fun. You're gonna see your fellow members. We talk about celebrations. What are you working on? We talk about what went right this week. What do you need to improve on? I will coach you for a bit of new strategies, and then we're gonna go around the horn in the member hot seat where you're going to tell us what the most important thing is you're working on that week and what your milestone is for that month and how you plan to accomplish both. And then I'm going to coach you for a few minutes. Then everybody in the group, okay, a small group, the mastermind is going to come in and offer some advice from things they've done, things they've seen. And why I built this, guys, was one time I was in my own business mastermind, okay, as a student years ago, probably like 8 years ago. I had a software engineer once present something to me in my business, and it wasn't even the coach. And this person brought up, hey, why don't you just do this? It sounds like this could solve your problem. I listened to him. I put it in. Within a month, I had a 20% increase in revenue, okay? Sometimes people that are in your mastermind creates this synergistic, powerful effect where you harness the power of everyone's minds to work on your problem. So you're going to get 5 people, all of us working on your problem at the same time, all from different walks of life, different industries, but all rising leaders who hold themselves to a respectable standard, one you'll admire and like, okay? The same thing with the Ferocious Optimist monthly group coaching membership. It's going to be awesome. Check it out, guys. The links for everything's in the description. I hope you're in there. I would love to see you. It's going to be great. If you join the Inner Circle, I will see you tomorrow because we're going live tomorrow, okay? So remember, there are 3 decisions that make all the difference in the world. What you focus on, what meaning you decide to give to that thing you're focusing on, and what you're going to do about it, okay? I hope you're ready to do something about it, to make a change. I've got platforms ready for you. I've got my memberships, all of them ready for you, ready to rock and roll. And no matter what, you're making a difference right now being here in the community. So I appreciate your time, appreciate you being here. Absolutely awesome to be here with you guys. Remember to live on fire. And as I always say, make yourselves better, make the world better. Have an amazing, amazing Wednesday night and Thursday. And I'll see you Friday at the War Room Recall with Nate, with Aaron, with Jake. And I'll see you guys, and go get yours. Let's go. I'll see y'all soon.